Storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on.
Open eye, feel the waves cut through me, hypnotized by the sounds I'm breathing in. Hold tight, chemicals collide. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Dripping lights paint the skies, all because of you. Dripping lights paint the skies, only you can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me.
Hello, everyone, one and all, and welcome to our split to day one for Division 2 of the Valence League. My name is Britannia, and I am joined by my newest and dearest friend. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, it's me again, Amy, back on the cast. Welcome to the
Back
stream,
on the
guys.
Welcome, everyone. And today we are featuring Division 2, as I've already said, featuring Fireflies and Ablaze. Now, the last time I cast, I believe, with Valence, it was over Ablaze, and they did set my fire alarm off, which was not too pleased. So hopefully this doesn't go that way this time, because I quite like my house. I don't have to move out prematurely. So tell me, since you are better informed than I am in my hiatus, what we can expect from Ablaze and introduce Fireflies to me.
So I have the added bonus of obviously playing Avow's League. I've played for a very long time on and off. I got banned for a few years, but I happen to play against both of these teams in a sense last split. Fireflies' roster now being four-fifths of VL Div 3 players. So we have three of the players that won last split in limit testing, Elisa TP and Acno. And these guys won. They had a very, very close series against Hentai Haven, which they then have picked up their support, who was AD carrying, I think, last split. I don't remember how it finished, but they have picked up Sesh King, and they're joined by Zen, who had a very good split in Division 2, finishing around semi-finals. So this roster's looking very good of players that are ready to prove themselves.
Yeah, a lot of up and coming, trending up.
The Ablaze roster has a lot of familiar faces. Mr. Darkpie now joining them from Division 3 after having a very, very good split down in Division 3. He is known for those late game aggressive picks, and especially on this patch, I'm looking forward to what they can handle, as I think both teams are ready.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to bring out there is the patch, of course. For people paying attention, huge patch drop today, the mid-season one. Sweeping overhauls to the ADC items, similar ones to Mythics with supports, and a couple of touches, I believe, to some of the tank or bruiser items where they've just turned the power, things like Sterex, Stride Breaker. So a lot of this is quite a lot of... I was going to say like cook, but it's not quite cook. It's just kind of a reinvention, right? It's taking the same recipe and seeing what maybe new ingredients you want to add or such for these carries. And you were talking to me before the stream about one or two of the carries being those like 30-minute late game hyper carries, which I super love. So we'll see if that comes online maybe a little bit earlier or if that changes laning phase entirely.
And I really am wondering where these bans are going to go. Obviously, Rakan being a very, very powerful support at the moment. Elise responded by the side of Ablaze, just targeting out that jungle, who he's very much known for, as Zen's Ezreal is taken away. Like I said, it's a brand new patch. We are on 13.10. All the items got updated. We've got a lot of AD carry buffs, giving them AP scalings. There are some changes to the AD Assassin items. So yeah, we are seeing a lot of bot lane focus bans. I would expect Jinx first pick here. Gragas looking like the flex.
Yeah, I had the privilege of going to see MSI, and it was one of those things that I've been looking keen at MSI was, even though that the ADCs are kind of high priority, where it is a top 2, they're willing to take second choice and get some of that flexibility. Things like the Annie that they were looking at. So I guess in this case, the Gragas, which is movable around the map, could be a softer first pick in terms of like power, but happier for the draft.
And I'm surprised that Varus is the option there. I mean, I think as a blind AD carry pick, it's very good. He does have the option of going 3 entirely different builds this patch.
This is true.
And Nautilus looking like it's going to round out this bottom lane. I'm not sure they should be picking support this early, but we'll see what they have cooking.
See what they have cooking. They're changing their minds with the hovers here as well, but I love the fact that you bring up the Varus builds being 3 ways as well, because that is a different way of bringing flexibility to your draft. I also cannot remember, but one of these players did have 700k on Varus, so it's either leaning towards that main or taking it away a denial here from the other side. So Nautilus is the one secured.
I do think it is just comfort. I think Mr. Darkpie wants to be on those scaling AD carries. He's able to influence fights to whatever way he desires. But Lucian Nami, interesting. I don't think it's what I would have picked here. But I do want to see how Lucian interacts with these new items, with the fact that now he does have a lot more options in his build paths.
Yep. Sorry, I was just going to say that I'm curious for the same reason, but with here Nami, because a lot of Nami's build used to have a lot more AP on it. Yes, you're getting those items sooner now because they are 300-400 gold cheaper. However, they are cut half basically in AP. A lot of Nami's aggressive power that she brought value here to Lucian might not still exist. Maybe the new items change that. Thing of Helia, whatever that thing's called, could change my mind. I haven't quite seen the numbers in play with that one yet, so that's going to be fun to watch.
And I think the other takeaway as the second rotation bans come in, for Nami specifically, is Imperial Mandate is no longer a mythic item. So she now has options of going any other mythic in the game if she so pleased, and being able to take Imperial Mandate, which has been a staple alongside Nami players.
Yeah.
The other takeaways are that being Imperial Mandate no longer being, a mythic, we do have to watch out for those mages that do like the item, such as the Heimerdinger, the Swain, anything that can really take that Rylai, take a dot damage, and just constantly apply it, constantly use that Imperial Mandate passive and effect to its fullest. As Victor Aesol are taking away for the red side.
Oh, we get a soft reset here.
We've had a bit
draft.
of a DC.
Well, that is not atypical. I feel like I feel like I almost should have expected. I feel like I'm at home now, casting balance with some draft difficulties. But as you were saying, right, Aurelian Soul taken away. I'm glad to see, because I can't stomach that champion at the moment. Every time I see it, my blood begins to boil now. So for me, I'm glad that one's gone. I'm sure Fireflies were happy to see that one gone, which is why, of course, they banned it. Victor, I believe, targeted away as well, which left the Zoe open. I did not fail to notice a Zoe main when I see one. So perhaps that would be the counter.
It was a very interesting player last split. Akko, known to do very, very well when given space to do so. The entire split, there was 3 mid laners that had Aurelian Soul permabanned against them. Atco was one of those. I'm quite fortunate because I was one of the other, and my current mid laner in Div 3 was the third. So it's going to be interesting to see him on that Zoe that he didn't really have if they do happen to go down that route. From draft alone, it's not looking like that would be the pick, but obviously we're experiencing new things. Maybe the changes to Lost Chapter being cheaper help Zoe. We really will have to see, especially with that 5th ban coming out for Fireflies, still to be seen.
Yeah, and this is one of the things I love about casting balance, is that a lot of the time it can feel like just a normal draft. But you do have to remember, I know from coaching and playing with esports while I was captaining that team, that there is an awful lot of thought from all 5 members going into these drafts, trying not only to find things that are comfort, but things that do have synergies, that give you any of those edges, trying to pick things away. So it's something I have to not forget coming back here, is that even though Zoe's left open, a lot of mastery there, it might just be better to pick a Syndra or an Orianna because it combos with these things. And of course, that adds extra layers to these drafts and things to watch out for, as you mentioned.
And I am still looking. I did mention to you just before the draft started and just before the stream, a lot of assassins got buffs this patch. And I am looking. I mean, at the moment, we do see that Gragas and the Wukong already out for both teams, and it is maybe looking like those would be the junglers, as both have an okay matchup into each other. But I am hoping to see still maybe all the likes of Kayn, maybe the likes of Rengar. We have seen Kha'Zix pop up on 13.9, 13.8 at MSI. So that champion does look like he's got a few buffs on this patch just from the changes, so we will have to see how the rest of this draft goes as a quick replay of the draft is happening.
Yeah, I love the fact that you bring up the Kha'Zix as well. I was looking at the new Yomus and the Prowler's Claw. Both of them seem to do a lot of work for that Kha'Zix, and both of them seem to be quite affordable and giving him more options to play around with. Whether it's better than the adjusted, it's really just a nerf on Duskblade, who knows, but we'll have to discuss that if and when that Kha'Zix rears his long purple head.
And the picks are coming back out. We should see a Wukong coming out on 3 here, which we are. So I am really wondering where Fireflies will target this 5th ban to. We did see the Yasuo, and there it is.
Yeah.
But I am thinking, are they going to throw another mid lane ban? Will they ban something like the Olaf? Or are we maybe going to see like an on-ban on 4 so that we can't give them this flexible, strong pick? That they're able to just maybe send into mid, but Pantheon being the option.
Pantheon leans into one of those assassin lethality type champions are leaning towards, and as well is pseudo flexible. I don't know if it's really flexible looking at the current draft here on red side, so it makes sense. I feel like taking that one away. A lot of ult potential as well. I remember suffering a couple of losses, I think, to Pantheon games before Imbalance, so that one's taken away. And speaking of games I've lost against, Cassiopeia's.
I'm surprised.
Tell me why.
The bans for Fireflies were insinuating that they were going to go for something that likes to play like mid-rangey, likes to roam a lot, doesn't really want to have bad early games.
Yeah.
This being one of those champions, the other champion that came to mind was Talia. And when I think of those two champions, what I would not want to play into them, Cassiopeia was probably one of those picks. But we will have to see. They do have a very good mid-duo around 6 that they should be able to just blow up Syndra as a Malphite finalizes the comp, but it is looking scary for the Cassiopeia and the Varus. They have to deal with a Gragas, they have to deal with a Nami wave, they have to deal with a Malphite ultimate, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to keep on their toes, but we'll really have to see.
Really have to see, and as you say, the draft here rounded out for Fireflies. A lot of sweeping AoE abilities. This team composition to me stands out as something that can early skirmish. A lot of early action with that Syndra and Lucian, probably around from 6, as you say, and of course Malphite and Nami ultimates. Gragas leaping in and around to bring those pieces home. So I'm now looking across here to red side with Ablaze trying to find where those win conditions are. They do as well have a fair amount of team fighting tools, but it doesn't seem as easy to execute or as blatant as it is here for Fireflies.
Now, I am wondering, will we see that Cassiopeia end up walking top and laning into the Malphite? Will this end cut mid? Or maybe we could end up seeing the Cassiopeia going bot into the Lucian Nami. Maybe that is something that they consider. I don't think it would necessarily be the best, especially the last option. But I am very, very curious on what build this Varus goes. They do have the freedom to all 3 builds this game. So we will just have to see.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to keep my eyes peeled for that Varus inventory, whether we're seeing Dirk's Rage Blades or whatever not Noon Quiver equivalent there is. BF Sword, I suppose, for most of your rip builds these days. So,
well,
here, wait for us.
There is an option for these AD carries now that the Noon Quiver is on legendaries instead of mythics. It still builds into that Kraken Slayer, it still builds into that Immortal Shield Bow, it still builds into, well, it now builds into stuff like Static Shiv. It could be interesting to see, especially in this series, if these AD carries do opt to go for a Noon Quiver item to give them a bit of lane prowess, or if they are going to straight rush, for example, Gwynsu's or the likes of, what is the item called again? The one Lucian's going to go. Not I can't think.
Navori Quick Blades.
That's the one. Navori Quick Blades.
Yeah.
So it is going to be very interesting. I am wondering if either mid laner will start with the likes of an Amp Tome or a Sapphire Crystal, just so they can get an early Lost Chapter back to keep themselves in lane. The same could be said about Malphite if they do opt to go for that AP build. Though I do think the side of Fireflies already do have enough of ability power.
And this to me is a great point to transition into some of the other changes on the patch, right? As you say, start the Amp Tome, sorry, not the tier, the Crystal, to get that early chapter. But of course, TP has been changed early now. The cooldown on it, I believe, is longer, scaling down towards level 10, because they identified that it's really 10 minutes that enables TP. I can't remember what it was on the patch notes. I'm a play-by-play. It's not my job to pay attention to those minor details, but those longer TPs could mean that there's more punishment for starting something that you don't get to come back with all that mana, or if you get your back cancelled and things like that, there's more room starting those perhaps riskier, less safe Doran items in those lanes looking at top and mid.
And the other thing to take away is yes, TP has been slightly changed, but we cannot stress how much the game has changed this patch. From items to slight champion changes to even
Minion
down to the
waves.
fact that minion waves have now changed, turrets have changed how they interact, and especially with turret playing. Something that will be, I think, very relevant if the Kled gets ahead is these turret plates are now going to be getting resistance based on the number of champions surrounding the tower after one plating is taken. It is to stop those scaling, those snowballing, outscaling, especially bruisers, from going out of control as we are about to load in.
Yeah, I remember the other day I lost 3 plates because I roamed bot and then Akshan shoved 1.5 waves into my tower and took 3 plates. And I was quite upset about it because I didn't necessarily do anything wrong. He just got more gold than me from me going to bot lane. And that felt quite bad just because he had like, I don't know, a mythic. But he was able to shred through that. And exactly that, right? The towers are now somewhat self-helped to prevent themselves from giving over too much gold to their enemies so easily, so freely. In that they get those resistances each time the plate falls off, and that scales up with the amount of champions they're taking and shredding those plates apart from your stony seams. So one of these things we'll have to pay attention to, as you said.
And I will break you off as we load in. Let us quickly go over each player in this game. We have Mecha Malphite in the top lane for limit testing with that Grasp of the Undying. We have Space Groove Gragas picked up by Aliso TP with the Dark Harvest. Sven has gone for that Lucian in the bottom lane with a PTA. We've got Akko's Syndra with the First Strike, and River Spirit Nami going for Sash King with the Airy. On the opposite side of the map, we have Kled sporting that Grasp of the Undying. We have Wukong with Conqueror, Cassiopeia with Conqueror, Varus the Dark Pie with Lethal Temper, and a Glacial Augment coming out from the Nautilus for Honest Sleep, as both teams are sprinting out onto the map.
Yeah, the classic line of scrimmage here, making sure that everyone is covering all entrances to the jungle, although not perfectly covered, as we have some members of Ablaze walking in here to the bottom side, getting that cheeky early ward in by the chickens, just to get out some of those early starts.
And it has been
and the sweepers, lovely. I love to see some good vision control early. It makes me very
They're going
excited.
back for it again, dropping a ward down on that raptor pit.
Waste not a ward. Oh, I love a good bit of warding, mate. It's an odd fetish, but I'll accept it. I'm warder and proud.
And those little comments we mentioned going into the series are already starting to be shown in these early items purchased. It's the Dark Pie, known for going late, known for wanting to have that scaling and as much gold as possible, has opted for the cult. So we are going to have to see if the side of Fireflies are going to be able to punish that purchase, or if Mr. Dark Pie just gets away with it.
Gets away with it. I'm certainly one of those players that is like, well, I might as well start with a call, since I know I'm going to probably see past 20 minutes anyway, and get that one in. Speaking of getting things in, grass being thrown around, hands being thrown in top lane as well. Both top laners seem committed here
They
to get
really want those grass stacks.
Kled dismounted. They're still chasing down these grass stacks.
It's
probably about 2 or 3 apiece. He's going to get that little bit of move speed as he does in the Kled, and gets the remount there as well. So limit testing, tests the limits maybe a little too much, gets some grass, which will help him scale, but he's got to get there first, as now he's a level down.
And this is rather unfortunate, knowing that Gragas is starting to opposite engage onto the bot lane.
As the hook lands, as you say, the level 2 comes in though. However, for that Lucian and Army, that very potent power spike for these two members, are able to trade that one back around.
And a little bit of a over-aggressiveness from the side of Ablaze, not realizing that the level 2 is going to come out from the Lucian Nami as an engage on top side.
Oh, my camera hasn't taken me up there, but let's take a look. I should probably... Oh yeah, no, we're on the rated camera. I don't know what's going on there. I must have just clicked funny or had my cursor on the side of the screen. Yeah, engaged topside, both members being low. We'll see if that continues to escalate as the bear trap on a rope is flashed away from, and the Kled dismounting takes away that tower aggro, managing that one very well.
And the downside to Malphite having that very risky trade early was the Gragas was pathing away from him, so he wasn't able to hold that wave outside of tower. He wasn't able to punish the Kled who got dismounted and lost most of his health, and now he's falling slightly behind tempo-wise as Clyde is allowed to just walk back to lane.
Yeah, and
Engage
speaking of
onto the
walking, we've got
Cassiopeia.
slithering going on in the river now, turning this one around here onto Gragas, gets some twin fangs in his rather large back, but is able to waddle away. But there's a bit of extra damage there that Syndra might be able to work with.
And it is going to be interesting to see if the bot lane from Fireflies do walk up to help assist at least OTP on this crab, as he's found by Wukong.
Yeah, Gragas here chugging about, trying to build up some of those resistances. Wukong has the level advantage here. Gragas body slams over the wall, flashes as well. I guess just in threat in case Wukong decided to follow, but instead he's more interested in that crab, and that's a flash burnt from jungle.
And that is rather surprising. I would have expected Wukong to not even go for that fight, knowing that his bot lane couldn't move, but and a flash hook coming out from the Nautilus.
And as you say, the Grievous Wounds comes in on top. Nami going to be reduced in that healing. Wukong coming in, trying to get that one down.
Very
The
big
the
snipe.
Q through for Varus gets that first blood.
And that is what Mr. Darkpie wants to see. He wants to see that extra tiny bit of gold that will make him scale much faster into this game. And it is looking slightly scary for the side of Fireflies, the one champion they do not want to get gold, and that Varus is... They may be looking for something in mid lane.
As you said, looking for something in mid lane, he's going to have to walk in the bush to find it. As Syndra hiding away, turns back around Wukong here. Having got what he wanted, a stat with the Nimbus staff, just trottles on home to the river, trying to get himself the second crab.
And this aggression coming out from Ablaze is what we
The
like to
action
see.
doesn't stop here. Smite here secured here this time for Gragas. It's Wukong getting caught under the barrel, and Syndra
That's
there,
no flash.
ready to answer. And there's the answer that you're looking for if you're a Fireflies fan.
And it is just aggressiveness after aggressiveness after aggressiveness. Both teams here just want to fight. And maybe it's a little too eager. And that's what caught Wukong out there.
Yeah, I don't think he had reset yet either. I think he was just trying to get that crab in before too late. But I think hoping around in that mid lane is maybe what cost him giving away that information that he was going to be in that top side. And of course, Gragas, having cleared his bot side and getting pushed out of bottom, had the ability to reset sharp there in time for that crab with more items in his pockets than the Wukong had. So really kind of maybe an overextension of Ignitar. But we'll see how that one progresses. But as you're saying, right, this Varus now set up, has that pickaxe, so probably is leaning towards some of those crit builds, not leaning towards that fancy, but there is a sheen in Lucian's pockets, and that does pay off quite nicely.
The Malphite taking a very good trade in that huge wave, making Clyde have to back off. And the big things, the big conversation that we've been really speaking about the whole series so far is, where are these items going? What are we going to see being built? And even now, there's an engaged slight trade coming out for the Lucian in favor.
Yeah, a slight trade that comes out about 2/3 of Mr. Darkpie's health vanishes into the void of that sheen, as I did
So
mention as
looking
well.
for another gank bot.
Another
This is
gank
a
bot, and
flash.
it's another flash blown as well for another dread line on his sleep here. Keeping those on their marks, and the
Into
Wukong
the
not wasting
top
any
side.
time. But again, here you are in the top side, getting some slams, some trades of grasps, and a dismounted Clyde, getting those orders in, running there quite havocally, trying to get a little bit more in this extension. He's very close to remounting here onto
As we're
Clyde. but
fighting in the
meantime,
river.
camera in the bottom side, there are a lot of blue orbs flying around. The bubble connects, and Nami picks up that one. Syndra invests the ultimate, but it's still a kill there for the
they're
side of Fireflies. But
Again,
yet
fighting
more
off of the bottom
with Varus
side.
having to extend out of the way. The bubble connects
Huge
in as
bubble
well.
coming out
Nami
as
pulling
exhaust
up.
comes down.
The exhaust comes down. The arrow is quite huge in the back of Lucian, deterring him from chasing any further there. So just more and more aggression, as you call it.
And I wonder, are we going to get a moment to discuss the new patch? Are we going to get a moment to discuss what these teams are going to want to be doing as the camera flies back to the top lane to a short trade coming out from the Malphite, dismount from Clyde?
Yeah, as well. I will quickly draw attention to what the camera's not drawing attention to, and that is Gragas has been on this dragon here for a little while.
Yes,
At least OTP is picking up our first objective of the game, and the gold lead here is looking quite healthy, quite competitive. Not as dire as the 1k it had been stretching upwards of just earlier. So Gragas here trying to find a transitional gank here, gets a little bit of damage, and a Dark Harvest onto the Nautilus, so we'll see how that one evolves.
And where the camera isn't focusing, Wukong has seen Gragas in the bottom lane and has decided to start up the Rift Herald as Clyde is getting a very good trade onto that Malphite. And I was going to say earlier, we still didn't know which build Varus was going for, but this reset has confirmed it. He will be going for the on-hit Quincy's Rage build, as it was looking like Lucian is going to opt for that Essence Reaver first.
Yeah, I quite like these optimizations. The more I think about the AP there in Varus, the Rift Herald is secured in Ignitar's pockets, gets that trinket replaced with the Eye of the Herald. The AP here on Gwynsu's, of course, AP Varus was a threat, a menace, a disruption anyway, getting the best of both worlds here with the on-hit, some AD for that chip harass, and then of course the AP for like the burst. It makes a lot of sense the more I think about that one.
And the other things are these AP builds for champions such as Twitch and Varus, who their mythic of choice was Riftmaker because it was the best of the bunch. Maybe they now have a viable mythic for when they do not have the skills available. The on-hit damage, especially the AP in the build path, the mixed pen coming out for its mythic passive is a little scary, and especially we could see it this game. We could see that Varus opt to go for the Nash's too after. We could see a death cap maybe. It's going to be very interesting to see where Mr. Darkpie goes from here.
It makes you wonder how is it you're supposed to itemize against these things. Perhaps a Gargoyle Stone Plate comes up in value. Perhaps you don't bother with the resistances if they're all going to get shredded and you just have to stack as much health as possible. We shall have to see. But my legs are quaking, as you say. That pen in Gwynsu's is genuinely terrifying. I can't tell if I'm quaking from excitement or fear. 14 CS up. Perhaps it's fear for the side of Fireflies looking in that bottom lane.
And it is looking more and more like they haven't been able to punish this cold start. Already picking up first blood and getting 400 extra gold in his pocket. Being up now over 2 waves. 20 CS to go on that coal before he gets a huge payout. And it is looking closer and closer, like as soon as he finishes, he will have the item, especially before the upcoming Ocean Dragon in 2 minutes.
Yeah, good thing you call out the Ocean Dragon. We have the Rift Herald yet to be used as well, so we're really to have our first wider skirmish. We've had some moving members around the map, but nothing substantial, nothing where I've had to really get my voice very warm here for this fiery matchup. So I'm excited to see here as Ignitar has found his way into the bot lane and still has that Rift Herald, as I mentioned.
And Elisa TP is hovering towards the top side. It is looking like we might get some split maps, split fights.
Yeah, a recall there from Cassiopeia won't be available. No TP sporting here. Rift Herald is nearly, I think, expired, or is it just waiting on something? So exchanges here at the top side. I'm biding my time because I'm waiting for that trigger to be pulled and directed camera to take us all the way over across the map at any dire second that something happens. So yeah,
and he is going to be spotted out by that pink ward as he's clearing it. Syndra's moving down. Maybe they look for a collapse.
At the moment, yeah, top lane, it is not budging this camera. It thinks something's going to happen, and Ollie wants to make that so. He's going to continue to chip and prod and poke at that Malphite, that freestanding health bar, padding his damage numbers, but nothing to yield yet in terms of action.
And those early moments, the first 3-4 minutes where we had that constantly fighting, has not stopped.
It's not stopping yet as Ollie gets back on the trolley. He's going to take a tower shot and a rock to his arse, but he's going to get Malphite a little bit closer to death every time.
And if you look on the mini-map as this trade happens in the middle lane, Wukong is looking for that
mid side, but we have our action finally here on the bottom side. The cask from the Gragas not yet been burnt. Ignitar pulling the engage, dashes back away, and here comes the Cyclone, knocking one up. TP following through. The Solution dashing forward straight onto the Cyclone, and the Dredge Line finds its way all the way back in. That was odd to watch, but the arrows coming through as well. There's one dead already on the side of Fireflies, and the TP late coming, turning around. The team members are here. The Rift Herald there in the backside as well. Cassiopeia with that movement speed coming forward, trying to get those Twin Fangs there into Lucian, but gets stunned instead by Syndra, who's able to land the Scatter the Weak. Will they be able to scatter and dissipate this wave with the Herald as it crashes with 4 members of Ablaze behind it? See, there's the Herald crashing. That's Plate's yield. So again, stretching the lead here for Ablaze.
Now, it is looking like Ablaze are too low to contest this dragon, so it could look like a quick and a swift contest of this Ocean Dragon for the side of Fireflies. Will they be able to go 2 up, and will we see what the soul is? Or Are they going to look for an engage onto Mr. Darkpie?
Found an angle here. The movement speed buff from the Tycall is pricing. The Flask, as you call it, is huge as Gragas is shut down there. But again, sadly, it lands on Nami, but it's still gold going your way and more security for that dragon.
And it's looking like another skirmish in the top lane as
the
Malphite's unstoppable.
Force, as you say, gonna put Kled back on the mount, gets pulled in with the bear trap on a rope, gets the second cast of the dashing through, and they're both still getting low, but it's the minion wave pulling favors there for Malphite, winning out on that trade.
And I am waiting for the moment one of these top laners dies. I am waiting for them to finally have enough of each other. I need it now, as the Ocean Dragon is going to go across to Fireflies. We are seeing the Cloud Soul as an option this game. I do wonder if Ablaze concede the next two dragons intentionally to be able to try and fight for that soul earlier on, or if they do want to contest maybe the third or fourth to give them a little bit of time, as Gwynseus is now completed for the Varus. We are looking to see some finished items soon. Nami is looking very close, Lucian's looking very close, as they keep trading in the top lane.
They keep trading. I don't know what round we're on, but it seems to be endless. I'm just looking forward to that knockout, right? It has to happen eventually. It's going to be in my, like, sub-theme, I think, of the series, is this, like, top lane matchup, just because the camera just seems to wants to hog them all the time. Not that I mind, it's really amusing just watching them, like, exchange graphs. But we'll be exchanging lives perhaps in a moment. Cyclone's spent here first. As you say, Engage comes in, Cyclone coming out, the second cast coming around, the slow hit from the cast, giving them ability to pursue. Kled in the vicinity has got the ultimate ability to do something, but the cask is excellent, knocks him back into Akano's range and scatters him back to the fountain. And that's the end of that exchange.
And that's what I want to see out of the Division 3 winners from last split. The top side of Fireflies showing their aggression they were known for as the Dreadline goes wide. We are going to have to see if they can keep this up.
Yeah, the thing goes wide, but the ultimate doesn't, as it's spent, but the camera doesn't seem to want to spend any more time down there. But it's a good thing to point out, right, is that this team from Fireflies is perhaps not the favourites for this match, right? They're the least experienced within this division, but they performed well last split. They kept the finals close, I hear, as well. So it's nice to see the up-and-coming, the up-and-trending players in this division show up against, as you say, some of the more veteran players, more experienced ones. For me as well, Ignitar, I've suffered many a loss too in Valence and from many positions. So it's unusual for me, I think, to see Ignitar on a back foot coming into a game.
And I think as someone who I've seen, especially 2 or 3 of these players that have been around since long before I got banned, such names as Sesh King, Ignitar, it is nice to see them still being able to show what they are capable of at a decently high level. We are going to see, like you have said, if Ignitar can come back, if he is able to take hold of the game and throw it back in favor. But hey, he might not be having a good game, but if you focus your eyes on Mr. Darkpie, and I know Twitch chat is loving this guy, but he has almost finished his second item. It is looking like we are going to see this full-on hit build, and I do wonder as an engage comes out, big cast is a flash.
Gonna have to hold, but the flash is there to answer. Gets away from that one. Still a summoner spent in exchange for an ultimate. Shouldn't really come to anything, that ultimate being spent, no objective here on the board, but we might come to something here if this exchange ends. The root coming here onto Gragas, but the first strike and ultimate coming in here on top of Nautilus, not going to mean too much. The Chase of Corruption spent as well, going to disengage Syndra. TP is now following up as well as Mr. Darkpie. See what he can do with those items being talked up in chat. He's just going to walk away as this one de-escalates.
If I was a Fireflies fan, I would be happy with that, as I'm looking for more.
Looking for more, finds a proc on first strike, and maybe an opportunity here to steal away the blue, but they're going to cut this one back. Gragas here going over the wall, but he's spent. He's the only
so deep
outside of the wall. He is so deep, and it is now knocked up as Ignitar goes deep as well. Double kill from Mr. Darkfire. The one we are keeping our eyes on Culling here, creating space. Cassiopeia with the movement speed, chasing him down this river, looking to get that little bit of poison tick, that extension on that movement speed. So it's a win there for Ablaze.
And it was looking so good for Fireflies. Being able to chunk them out, create the space, having complete control over the waves if they wanted. But they did seem to want to be a little more greedy. And in the end, it was a downfall.
Downfall indeed. We'll see how much that ends up costing them. Fortunately, there was no objective, as I did mention just prior, on the map for them to claim in exchange. So really, it's just a problem, right? You've now given that Kraken ahead of the clock now to Mr. Darkpie, and that could be very vicious and very scary for when those objectives do fall onto the map.
And already we are seeing as the Dreadline comes out onto Syndra.
Lands the grasp. Sorry, not the grasp. The miasma comes out on top, and that is a kill there for Ignita.
And we're already seeing the power of that dual pen coming out from the Windsear's Rageblade, especially in a few of these trades. I could probably bet with my life that if that was just Kraken last patch, there's no way this Q, or these Qs, or these E's from the Varus are doing as much damage as they have been. Herald being dropped in the middle lane, and we are going to see maybe a fight.
Maybe a fight, of course, indeed, as the members are running up here from the river. But of course, top lane is far much more important. Let's see how this one goes. There's another round. I don't think anything's too much happening on the minimap because these health bars are quite far away for the moment from dying. I'll keep casting and talking fast until something more dramatic happens, but it doesn't, and they walk away exchanging some more grasp.
You know, every time the camera pans back to these two in the top lane, I'm expecting for someone to die. I'm expecting for them to go all out, but they are ending these trades a little too early. Are we going to be able to see a solo bowler this game? Are we going to be able to see a solo bowler this series at this rate? Who do you think is going to come out on top? That is the question.
I feel like I have faith in Ollie, right? I feel like Titanic's there. It's only upwards from here. Malphite is... Yeah, he's going to be tanky, but his damage is going to run flat, right? He hasn't got exactly AP. He's going to do some max health. He's going to do quite a bit, actually. Maybe I shall have to choke on my words. He's going to have to get back on, and he does. He gets the stack, but he doesn't get the bear trap on a rope to connect, so we're back to where we started.
And again, Wukong has been trying to invent that blue buff, this time successful as he walks down into the river. Are they going to maybe look for a dive in mid lane here? He hasn't been spotted.
Has not been spotted, but... importantly, there's
well,
a the top lane. We might have a disingenuous 1v1 in the top lane. There's a stoppable force, finds a clear, dismounted. Gragas picks that one up with the Malphite's help. And there we go. We have some action finally in the top side.
Not the action I don't think either Oza or Twitch chat would probably be expecting or wanting. It is a kill over for the side of Malphite, and I do worry now. Is that extra gold going to stop Ollie from being able to do anything in this solo side lane?
At least you have lost your rights to MVP this series for that.
You have fumbled the top lane 1v1.
Is this going to sway this top matchup?
And we are looking, what does Malphite itemization after the Sunfire kit? Because I would be suggesting something like that Gargoyle, something that gives you split resistances and maybe a shield. Because of the max HP damage that is coming out from Varus W on his abilities and that Sprint hybrid pen, I do think he would prefer flat resistances to health this game.
Yep.
And the shield does in fact contribute to that. But we are going to have to see the option as he is looking to bully Ollie out a little more.
Yeah, make sure he's not getting quite as free range in this lane for the moment. There's a lot of blue wards. I'm going to bring my attention back to this because it's often a clear indicator of team's intent and aspiration, so to say. And it seems that Fireflies are using their name to appropriate, and they are lighting up the river as there were spawning season in spring for these Fireflies. And that map is looking very blue on that top side, and it's going to make it tricky here for Ablaze to try and contest towards, as Baron has now spawned. We're past that 20-minute mark.
They are, again, hovering around that middle lane while the little skirmish in the top lane is happening. Gragas,
it's not really worth casting
we're looking at the minimap.
Yeah, looking at the minimap, I would sure love the camera to change. Here we are, it's happening. And then as soon as it does, the engage comes out. The Cyclone comes out in round 2. Scatter the Week goes a little bit wide, but onto Mr. Darkpie. Keep him alive, keep your eyes on him. Let's see what he can do. It's the Flash Cyclone, second cast for Ignite, and it's a Flash forward here from Nautilus. They don't need Mr. Darkpie. He's just going to walk into range with the Qs, and it's Cassiopeia doing the damage this time. It's the front line of Ablaze that pick up this one, but here comes Malphite, the unstoppable force, and the shutdown onto Varus, claimed by the full armor Malphite, but can they change him back in exchange? It's Ablaze sieging here onto the tower, but the minion wave is gone. Kled gets that tower in the top side, so limit testing having to sacrifice a tower to trade for Darkpie's life and stop that one from getting any worse.
And the biggest takeaways to take from that fight alone was Mr. Darkpie trying his hardest to dodge every single one of Syndra's abilities, but in the end, still getting hit up by that massive ultimate, taking majority of his HP bar, and it is a worrying factor that they need to stick more to their AD carry. They need to be able to peel. It's looking like they didn't necessarily get that memo. It got lost somewhere along the way that, hey, Varus has got a lot of gold, but it is going to end up as a win for Ablaze. They managed to get some kills. They managed to get a tower on the top side, and this game is slowly, even though the side of Fireflies do have a lot of the vision control, they do have a lot of that early aggression and those first 2 dragons, it is looking like the game is favoring Ablaze.
Does indeed, and it's perhaps one of the conditions we can set up right. It's clearly Mr. Darkpie, the one that's going to have to be pulling together these team fights. He probably has a lot of this gold difference. If you take a quick glance before this team fight is due to break out, it's all of 3k. You can imagine that 4 kills is a good component of that, as we have a bit of chip and a bit of posture around this Drake. It is not soul point, but it would stop it becoming soul point for Fireflies, who would desperately like this to stop them from falling behind in this game. As you say, they are the ones currently on the back foot, even if it's only, I don't know, a UK size 5. It's not really that massive to be behind Kled here shoving out this mid lane, but as you say, they've got to make sure that this gold advantage that they have in Mr. Darkpie is not obliterated from the fight. The Syndra is going to do an excellent job at that. The burst from Lucian Gragas is going to do
important. We really need to be watching the positioning, especially for the Lucian and the Varus going into this fight as the Kled ult comes out.
Kled comes out. This is the obvious engage. They're going to have to be answering the tidal wave on the backside. Keeps Cassiopeia from the fight, but on the front side, it's the Cullen coming in. It's the ultimate from Malphite in the backside as well. Mr. Darkpie's still alive. Cassiopeia, the two of them together, pushing this one out, but Malphite, the one getting pushed from the Drake. It's Mr. Darkpie getting bubbled on the side of the corner on that Drake there, looking to exchange an army there as well. The shutdown for Malphite as well. It's Fireflies leaking out of this dragon pit, but maybe they want to look for something here. The Syndra's on the other side. They're going into the pit. Tries for the steal, but does not find it. Gives over his life in exchange, trying to get one back. But it is another pickup there for Ablaze.
And it was going so well for Ablaze until it wasn't, and until it was again. That fight was so up and down. Malphite.
Oh, I could have almost got out of that one, but that's a free pickup there on Sesh King, and extra permission for Ablaze to start up this Baron.
And Malphite almost killing the Varus in that fight. They just split. Again, every single fight, either team has been splitting up. They have been separating from their carries. They haven't been able to peel off the enemy team. And this time, again, it goes in the favor of Ablaze as they pick up that Baron Nashor. The gold lead extending to almost 6k now. 7k, 6k, 7k.
6k, 7k, it could grow maybe even to 8, as you say. The Baron buff has now been secured for Ablaze. They reset now, they get that item gold advantage, they put it in their pockets. A Radiant Virtue for the Kled, I absolutely love. We're almost looking at the Wit's End for Varus now as well. They're going to pick up some extra gold from their jungle before they begin their Baron siege.
Something I do want to point out, as that Rylai and Rod are on our Cassiopeia here, are we going to be able to see that Imperial Mandate after the Archangels is completed? Where do we think this is going to go? Are we going to get to that point in the game? Is Varus going to take over? These questions are things that we will have answered shortly.
It's currently pensive, right? Ablaze are set up now to crack into the space and start to look towards the close and not just the setup for the end, because they are reaching towards that end point. We are 27 minutes in. This Varus is reaching
big dread line.
Weak, and here's a dredge line. It lands here onto the Gragas. The Trees of Corruption plus the piercing arrow is absolutely aptly named as Gragas gets chunked out to part, and Lucian 740 with an army support. So Ablaze picking up some health advantages at cost of ultimates in the mid.
And we do have to pay attention to that minimap as the side lanes for Ablaze are pushing, and they have picked up 2 tier 2s now, 3 tier 2s now, as they're looking for more.
Yeah, and that 8k gold lead, as we mentioned, but it's the unstoppable force here, onto 2. One of them's the Wukong clone, so it's not as massive as it was, but it's still a kill here onto the support, and they'll take that one.
And again, the aggressiveness of both of these teams is what's letting them down. Another kill thrown over to being over aggressive, being way too far ahead. Ooh, excuse me. I'm yawning. But
Tired of
where
seeing
do
the
we
same
look from
mistakes.
here? Yeah, indeed. Where do we look from here as this gold lead has extended to 8,000 gold? It's looking more and more like the next fight will be the big one. We have to point across to when the objectives are spawning. We do have Dragon in 1:50, and the Baron coming up in around 3 minutes. As Varus is too far up for my liking there, but I guess Fireflies will let him off.
Yeah, I suppose really it's the lack of vision, right? They don't really want to
Indeed.
risk anything here. There is objectives inbound, but not necessarily pronto, right? 1:30, as you say on the Drake. So it's an odd position to be in. The Baron has been spent. There's no objective left on the board, and both of these teams are just kind of farming to this point, right? You're looking forward to this next fight, you say, because it could be the last one, but at the same time, if it's still close, if you play it well, it could continue to extend. You just don't expect it to be that case for Ablaze, who are 7k up, but it could end before it starts. So the change of corruption makes it easy to land the dredge line, and it's the ultimate coming in from Nautilus to follow up, and that Varus is a monster. And speaking of monsters, Ignitar gets one by himself. He got the Cyclone onto 2. He has the second cast. There's a Cullen coming along as well. Gets the flash from Lucian, chasing him over the wall. The Cassiopeia's here, running around to lap this one up. It's Varus here in the mid lane. We might not even get the fight. We might not even see the dragon spawn here in 40 seconds. The members of Ablaze are encroaching on this mid tower, and it goes. They're encroaching on this inhibitor, and it's soon to follow. Malphite having to give over some space. Kled lining up behind. They have a giant minion wave.
Are they going to go for the fight?
The members, they might have to go for the fight because it's the Nexus towers. Otherwise, Firefly's going to have to do something. Cassiopeia has the ultimate available. Keep your eyes on that Varus. Don't forget as well. Charge available as well. People coming alive in time. This is an unstoppable force, but it might not be enough time they need to get that Nexus. As they start to rush it down, they get a couple of shutdowns, but Dark Pie, untouched, touches the Nexus in all kinds of ways you don't want and takes that game 1.
And that hype Twitch chat was saying just before, Mr. Dark Pie having a phenomenal game. A little tiny mistake in the mispositioning on that mid lane fight, but overall, the hype is real.
That was a stellar and exciting game 1. I love as well that it's Dark Pie, right? We took that Varus, and it was quite an unassuming pick, right? We looked at it and it was like, well, maybe the Jinx of Felly is the current concededly best ADCs on the patch. Oh, we're just gonna go for something that's flexible but comfort, right? You're talking about the 3 different kinds of things. Starts with the Cullen as a right from the get-go. Something we highlighted is maybe he's waiting for 30 minutes. We got to 30 minutes, he had the Nexus by then, not looking to get the Nexus from then.
Indeed, and it is. This is obviously a joke, but it did look like one team was adjusting to the changes of the patch closer than the other. There were some questionable build paths coming out from the side of Fireflies, and I'm hoping going into this game 2, are they able to shrug off that loss? Are they able to shrug off the patch and be able to figure out their footing, or will Ablaze slowly crush them?
Yeah, I assume we're happy here to toss to a break, and we can join back and find out if Ablaze can bring us to a game 2, or if Fireflies want to take us to a game 3, making some adjustments for game 2. So if you're happy to toss to a break, we'll see you guys just ahead of game 2.
See you in a few minutes.
Chemicals collide. Hold tight, hold tight.
The stage is a light ahead of Game 2 here, with Ablaze and Fireflies looking to make bright of Game 2, as Game 1 was quite contentious, quite exciting. And we're already thinking and talking about Game 2. We were thinking back to last bans, last draft, and what kind of changes do we think we've settled on looking into Game 2 here?
So I think I expect the virus to maybe get banned. I am kind of sat here going, they have opted to both take the same side. They have had good performances on those two drafts. I mean, the early game for Fireflies as we go into this draft was insanely good.
Mhm.
And it is, for me, looking like if I'm both of these teams, I stick with a similar draft like bans, and I probably change up a few things in the draft. I am looking to see if Fireflies does adapt to where the patch kind of seems to be sending the meta. As the Akali ban coming out again. That was the last ban we were talking about.
Yeah.
There's Akali. Elise in response, but I expect them to maybe first pick the Jinx. I expect them to maybe pick one of those flexible junglers. Maybe Gragas is left open as they do ban Varus.
Yeah, our first change of the draft so far, following on 3. The Varus taken away, perhaps too potent in Fireflies' eyes.
Ezreal response again. Wukong now. Maybe they're looking for the Milio first pick.
Yeah, a lot of adjustments here to the draft already. Ignitar, of course, had maybe not the strongest start, maybe a happy game to begin with, but definitely finished strong, getting into that backline, breaking apart, making it very difficult to peel. As you mentioned, it was something that the teams were looking to have to do, and it's been quite the thing to talk about, and things that can peel and keep a character alive. Milio is one of them.
And this is looking a little scary. With all the changes on the current patch, I was wondering how strong Milio would be, especially with the champions he's already been paired with. Jinx, Ashe, Caitlyn to a degree, as there is Jinx going for the side of Ablaze, but we'll have to see what they pair it with.
See, indeed, but it's not going to be the Jinx as that one is secured by Ablaze. I think that's no real surprise. The Nautilus performed well last game. It makes quite a good bit of sense just to quickly snap that one, as they do. Could still be flexible. I don't know if I'd expect to see it. Not because this level isn't capable of playing it, I just don't know if that's as well drilled, perhaps. And as well, it's a lot harder for Nautilus on this patch, particularly, than it is the MSI one to get into those side lanes and roam. But one of the things left open at the moment is Aurelion.
Like I was saying in the draft for Game 1, he was one of the 3 middle laners from Division 3 that had Aurelion Sol permabanned against him. He was known for his overall performance on that champion, and he is, and I can say as someone who's laned against him, very, very good at that champion.
Yeah, I have it here. If I quickly tab to my other thing on op.gg, there is a certain lot of Aurelion games played here in ranked at 47 with a 68% win rate and a 4 KDA. We'll see if that rank trend continues here in Valence as well, as the Zayas was rounding out the first half of the draft for Fireflies.
And I am looking at this Fireflies comp and going, this is a lot better for their strengths. We are going to see the Cassiopeia run back again by Ablaze, but I do feel like this plays into what Fireflies wants to do. I am expecting now an aggressive top side to be drafted, so we are looking to see how Ablaze can stop that with the next 2 bans.
Yeah, at the moment, yeah, Cassiopeia doesn't feel like a great fit for this draft. Last game it was kind of quiet, as well as the Syndra. I guess top lane was to the same extent. They kind of just handshook on exchanging waves in lanes, right? There was a bit of trading back and forth. Both of them did things in the team fight, not to say they were invisible, but they weren't as high impact. Perhaps that's just the shape of the meta, right, and the way the bot lane went. But Cassiopeia, at least in that last draft, to me, did, with the Miasma and the ultimate, say no to a lot of that engage with the Gragas and everything else that it would perform well into. It hasn't currently got that status in this draft, as we seem to have banned out last game's brawl in Kled and Malphite.
That will make certain members in Twitch chat very happy that Ollie is seeing some respect. His Kled has been taken off the table as Trundle is now the response ban. It does make me believe that they're maybe looking for the Sejuani, but that champion and Ornn are open. I did mention it last draft. Both of those champions have a lot of value to both of these teams, so we will have to see what the pick is.
Yeah, and one's been like kind of creeping in from everywhere, I think, in like MSI. It's been one of those like quiet stars. I know I have a fan at home that is a very big Ornn enjoyer, but it is the Sejuani that's locked for now.
And it now makes me think Sejuani's been taken off the table. We need something that's semi-aggressive, something that we can pick that locks down the Jinx and the Cassia. Are we going to see the Jarvan? Something that Elisa TP has been known to play as he's hovering Hecarim, and it's locked.
Ooh, a Hecarim and the
There's the
Ornn.
Ornn.
Very nice prediction. So yeah, here we are. We have found our hard, solid engage, our space makers, our play dividers for Fireflies. And this comp is pretty much as you liked, right? Playing towards their strengths with the Million's Eye, and then the things to round this composition out was
No.
that front line and that interruption. So Fireflies here setting up quite nicely in the draft, and we're now looking 5 seconds left for Ablaze's answer.
Sion, Aurelia, Lilia! It's Lilia!
It's Lilia.
It's Lilia. It is looking like that Sejuani will be going top, but if it is a Lilia top, it is a phenomenal matchup for the side of Lilia. It is a very easy lane to not fuck up. And I will say it is a very easy lane to not fuck up. It will be very much, and I mean the draft very much shows where these junglers are going to be focusing their attention going through the early game. It is looking like Hecarim will want to try and get that Cassiopeia and Jinx locked down to try and get a bit of gold into Zyra and Aurelion Sol's pockets. But on the opposite side, it's not so the same. I think Sejuani will be visiting that Ornn. They will be looking to get Lilia some gold, because if she is able to run a muck in this game, she will take over.
She will take over. Well, that's our one setup expectation in terms of narrative there. If Lilia can walk and tramps all 4 legs over this Ornn, has of course got that Hecarim to be careful of as well. So currently, it feels like fairly evenly matched. I think the only sway here is in that top side, as you say, the matchup favoring Lilia. But I kind of want to know more about this Aurelion Sol, because you've told me before that it is permabanned. So I know it's completely strong and really frustrating. How does it fare here? One in this composition, and specifically into Cassiopeia.
So, Echo's been a talking point for a lot of teams and a lot of players, especially from Division 3 last split. He had some very, very good performances on a lot of champions, but with the Aurelion Sol rework being on the first week of our split, we did in fact get to see him pick it up and show what he was capable of. His laning prowess with that champion is very good. He knows when to trade and when not to trade, and I'm hoping we do get to see that today. I'm hoping that he is able to weave between the Cassiopeia and able to get those stacks of Stardust that he needs for the Sky's descent. So we're gonna just have to see. He is very vulnerable in this game. There is a Nautilus, there is a Lilia, a Sejuani, and a Cassiopeia he has to deal with. But if all goes to plan and all goes to his strengths and what he is known for doing, especially in the division below, it could look very scary for the side of Ablaze.
Yeah, I love that you highlight that Ablaze here has the tools to deal with it, right? Aurelion Sol casting his Q, he roots himself pretty much, it just goes blur, my laser, bleh. But of course that makes him prime targets then for Nautilus stretch lines, for Sejuani ultimates, for the Tumbleseed weed thing from Lilia, right? It makes the life of Ablaze very easy. If this Aurelion Sol does become a problem, he can be very easy and very shut downable, I guess, as you say, like vulnerable. So it's a point to be careful of, is this Akanoka, so we'll have to be cautious of how Ablaze decide to deal with that one, or try to steer clear as much as possible.
Now, I am wondering what approach Lilia does take going into this game. Are we going to see, like I mentioned before, the Sapphire Crystal into Early Lost Chapter, the Amptum into Early Lost Chapter, or is she going to opt for something like the Doran's Ring or the Corrupting Pot to try and help with her early trading a little more into the Ornn matchup? I would not be surprised if we saw a Ruby Crystal or a refillable pot coming out from the Ornn for him to then buy the Doran Shield in lane. Just to give him a little bit of an advantage going into this Lilia. But we really will have to see where these junglers end up pathing, where these top laners end up skirmishing again.
Mm-hmm. I
I'm
hope the
gonna
trend
say it.
continues.
I think they will just continue to fight, and this game is looking like which AD carry gets ahead first, which mid laner gets ahead first, and is Ollie able to dominate the top lane? Is he able to fully control the matchup?
I absolutely love the summoner choices here for the AD carries. And Ovius here on the Xayah running that Ghost, and of course opposite here Dark Pie with that Cleanse, making sure that any of that long range, non-committal engage or the Fear from Hecarim does not completely run him dry if he should get ahead like he did last game. So we keep our eyes on these carries as you would expect. But at the moment we have a bit of a turnaround for a game one, or a level one, sorry. Not the line of skirmish, we got some bodies grouping up in bot
Now,
lane.
I find it funny. This was something that happened a lot in Division 3. It was slightly mainstreamed last split by Quantify. They used to do this every single game, so it is quite understanding that Sesh King is already aware of what they're
Yep.
doing here. But we are going to see, are they going to be able to, like... Zen's playing it very dangerous, knowing they're there, but are we going to see a split map? Are we going to see them completely have to sacrifice this bottom lane?
And that would be of great benefit for Ablaze, of course, with that Jinx, giving her all of that room to play around with, and that security and that safety to make sure that we can get to that 20-minute, 30-minute power spike as early as possible. Make it a 15, make it a 10. So at the moment, it's just going to be a cautious return to blue path. Not a vision on the bottom side, but they should know they're here because they're not in bot side. There's the Blast Cone, gets him out with a little bit of damage. So Hecarim here going to get ahead of the jungle, but he's on the wrong side. So it's just gonna have to see how it evolves, right? Sejuani has the opportunity to walk into enemy bot side. Hecarim might, it might just be that top side you're expecting.
And something that is slightly worrying now, this is actually against how Ablaze wanted to play this early game, in my opinion. They do want, like, they did want to path towards that Lilia to try and get her a tiny bit of gold, because even though this bottom lane is very gankable with that Nautilus hook and the Jinx, you don't want to leave anything up to chance. And especially when your AD carry is opting to go for that cull, you just rather let them sit back and do their thing.
Yeah. Let's check. Has got that cull, of course, again, keeping up to the trend. So, be sure that the Jinx is going to get fed at some point, right? If it goes that way again, first blood, of course, went Darkfly's way before. Has got Sejuani now in the pocket. Might look for something here since the camps are very far away, or could just recall. Oh, I'll hold my breath. Hecarim in top right. Lilia here trying to get a little bit better of the heck with the full legs. Is able to get back onto the tower, but takes a chip in doing so.
And I have to praise Ollie. Not on how he escaped that gank, not on how he played last game, but his emote game is on point. And it is nice to see.
Mine disabled. What was it?
Oh, we've seen a dabbing Pengu as a gank comes down onto bot lane. We've seen the penguin in the inflatable chilling on his drink. So we are going to have to see what emotes we see out of Ollie next.
Yeah, keeping it in the top lane, old Cheery, dandy. Knows he's on his island, gets that surfing gear out on that Pengu, I guess. Speaking of surfing, Akunoka surfing with that flash away from the sliding gliding Sejuani, who is keeping up the tempo, dashing into mid lane there. So room now for Cassiopeia to play with in mid.
And it is looking like the game plan should, in theory, be returning to where they should be. We are going to see if that Sejuani is going to path to the top side, or if she's just going to take Gromp, take Crab, and then just give up as a small trade comes out onto the bottom lane.
Yeah, and it's very much in favour of the Xayah there. Did not able to secure the feathers, walks onto the Champers, but doesn't seem to take much damage back in return since Melia was there to keep Xayah healthy and shielded. Nautilus in the river clearing out some vision, but that might come in handy as Sejuani works her way onto the Crab.
And this is the power of Melia. This champion, who we haven't really been able to see at MSI but being disabled, has very, very good trading patterns early. That dot damage on his abilities, on his allies, when he uses them, giving that extra range, the consistent healing and shielding that he provides while being a poke mage as an engage comes out with Ollie.
I was not quite expecting that, but Oli gets clapped on the Lilia, has enough L's in the name to spell it, but is gonna have to suffer the loss, keeping the L's intact. First blood there for limit testing, and we got our
We got
honorable
it.
one. We had it, and I wasn't the one time you don't expect it, and it goes against expectations. They're defying it even, keeping true to MSI, and I wasn't ready.
And that was not something we want to see. That was not the way the Silver Bowler should have played out. But it was a surprising factor, and it will possibly feed into how this game is looking and how this game is going. So the game
Speaking of going,
again.
it's Jinx having to go away from the action. It's now going to recall into the tower as Xenovius and Sheshkin get the health advantage.
And this is a scary point for Ablaze. They have had to ban both of Zen's very, very confident AD carries in the Ezreal, who got very good this patch, now being able to build a stronger Trinity Force. And Draven, who will abuse 90% of the items that got reworked somehow. And it has allowed this Milio to be open, and it is allowing Xayah to have very good trade patterns as the feathers come down on Sejuani.
Yeah, I'm a bit curious here as Xayah gets cozy in that campfire. Flashes forward, but I believe autos the tower, which is exactly the damage that would have slain Ignitar there, who was making a bit of a happy blunder. Walking into that one, unsupported, unmanned, and unprepared, has to spend that flash, but does, I guess, big brain it and get the flash away from Zenvia, so there is now opportunity for Darkpie and for Honest Sleep to get something, unless Hakarim has anything to say about it. A great hook from the Nautilus prepares that disengage, roots him as the Ghost comes down as well. His feathers flying at the moment, no ultimate available, but the feathers, they come back through Honest Sleep, and that's the slay there onto Nautilus, and it's Xenovius picking that one up.
And this is what Fireflies were wanting last game. They were not able to make it happen, and the game slowly spiraled out of control. Now, 1k gold, and it is important. That 1k gold is on the top lane, it's on the AD carry, and we are going to have to see Ornn, with a little bit of extra XP, with a little extra gold, will limit testing be able to fully test his limits. Will he be able to scale out of control, making it so Oli can't play?
Oli losing just about half his health, gets the trade back, but it doesn't seem to do too much. Takes a quarter of limit testing's health there. Has plenty of room for testing, apparently. His limits seem currently boundless. That damage did not seem really that fair, and that's something about Ornn. He does always seem to have an unexpected amount of damage, but currently the Hex Tech Drake favouring Ablaze, which is pretty alright, I guess, looking at that team. It's particularly the Jinx, of course.
And it is... We are getting to the point where last game was looking so in Firefly's favour. We are at that point again where Fireflies are ahead.
Yes.
They've gotten the lead. Now, are they able to hold? Are they able to keep their clutches on this game? As another trade comes out again, Oli not losing half his health because he missed the brittle stack.
Did miss the brittle indeed, but Lily here not missing the rest, so finally gets the better of a trade. Missed opportunity there by limit testing, has it handed back to him in this lane. So top lane continuing to entertain.
And if you are an Ablaze fan, that is what you want to see after this rocky early game.
Oh, there's no Malphite. How can it be rocky? Anyway, moving swiftly on. I completely derailed myself. I lost my point. I had a mediocre one there. Rift Herald! I love a good Rift Herald. Let's still go Rift Herald. Rift Herald has indeed spawned. Both junglers are already here on the top side. Blastcone simultaneously swept there, so both of them are going to have full information to be fully aware of what's going on there, so maybe they can prepare. Bot lane nowhere yet to be seen involving in this one, so it's going to be really up to the mid laners and top laners as to what happens here. They are beginning to... Yeah, they're sitting here in the bush, but they don't know it's wanted. Oh, that's my favourite game. I love playing battleships on Summoner's Rift.
So,
yeah, go for it.
One important part is these itemization changes that we were speaking about a lot in Game 1, a lot before the game started. We are going to be seeing the static shift being built by Jinx as she goes for that play. Very, very, very well seen. But it is looking like it's going to be a static shift, most likely into IE. for that Jinx. She can maybe go for the Gale Force, but I don't think she'll need it as
I have to hold the
Smite
point
comes
as the
down.
campfire comes in here. Hecarim. It is a Herald now for the Melio Pocket. Sesh King able to secure that one. Cassiopeia here flashing forward with the
Engage
miasma
onto them.
straight. Millions on, but he's going to dash away and breathe life backwards and get out.
And that is the matchup. That is how this mid lane should be going. Aurelion Sol should be slightly ahead in CS, and Cassiopeia should be threatening the kills. It looks like they've caught Melio out.
Ooh, a deep dredge line deep in the jungle keeps Melio on his toes. The campfire coming down, but it's not going to keep his lights alive in the fires of the deep forest. But it's going to be a cleanse and a flash from Darkpie. The feathers fly over the Zap, gets the auto attack, walking back in that bush, and that's a solo bolo in the bottom lane. But what can Ablaze do about it? There's a minion wave and a tower in the way of the dredge line, so nothing, it seems.
And again, aggressiveness into mistakes. Ablaze gets something. Mr. Darkpie, sorry, is Ablaze. He's on fire now. He's still on fire from last game. He still thinks he's as strong as he was then. I'm entirely wrong. He's gone Stormraiser, but the point being, he hasn't adjusted to the fact that they are behind yet. He needs to calm it down. And I think the whole of Ablaze needs to hold back for a moment. They need to look where they are strong. This Cassiopeia, if given a bit of a lead, will take over the game. Are they going to be able to help out?
But we'll have to hold the point as the Herald is called at the same time that the Horn is called. Campfire comes in. Yeah, just going to be a bit of a disappointing direct camera there, not really giving us too much of top lane, sadly. I'd love to see the next chapter in that saga, but we do get to see at least the Herald crashing in mid lane and a number of plates pulled together between some team members. So again, that gold lead beginning to extend, and it might extend a little bit further as the engage is halted by the Chompers, but it doesn't stop the fear coming through, and that's another kill here on the Xayah.
And it is looking like the same mistake over and over again. I don't want to harp on to that point, but Zen has been able to pick up 3 kills from the over-aggressiveness, from them just not respecting they don't have vision bot side. Not respecting that we have no help in the top lane as they engage on the top lane.
Yeah, engaging here on the top lane. Aurelion walks through. He's going to put the beam over the wall. That is really obnoxious. And there's a kill. He didn't really have to do too much work. He pressed E, he pressed Q, and that is a kill there onto Ollie. Picked up Father of Aurelion Sol. And as you were saying, maybe we can get this Cassiopeia ahead. Getting Cassiopeia ahead just got a lot harder as 300 gold falls in the pockets of Anarcha.
And we are approaching the first 100 Stardust for Aurelion Sol. Now on 97 as he goes back to the mid lane. He will have access to that huge ultimate soon, so we are going to have to see if it comes down on the next
here
dragon.
comes the over-aggressiveness, but they do have members to support this time as the ultimate from Sejuani comes through. All the Hecarim as he comes around, but the feathers, they're absolutely huge. They pull them all through. The Zap lands though, and it highlights Xayah. They're going to look for her, they're going to target her, but it's the man with the Stardust, and he comes on flying in. Calling Ziggy, he's looking, but the Zap was wide this time as well. Cassiopeia looking to arrive, but it's not going to be in time to save Mr. Darkpie, so now Cassiopeia staring down a 1v4, fancies the chances. Look at these health bars, they are super low, but he's got to get Ultra Mega Flame Death kicked backwards by that Melio, and so can't get anything in reply.
And this game has been from slowly being in Fireflies' hands to fully being in Fireflies' hand. It is still obviously possible for Ablaze to do something, but it is looking very bleak. The Rod coming out now for the Cassiopeia as the Navori and the Leandries finish on the side of Fireflies.
Yeah, really, it's only going to get better as well, as Ornn is going to reach that point where he's able to hand out items. Hecarim will reach a first mythic as well, and Xayah is, of course, superly escalated. And when a hyper carry is escalated, slapping a Melio on top of that problem is just really going to amplify that issue. And with a Jinx that's not as far ahead, hasn't got the powerhouse of a mythic, but is on the way, might begin to struggle to catch back up in this game. This gold lead is 4k. It's only 14 minutes. There are still early objectives to play for, so could be by the time that there's a Baron. I mean, difficult.
And it is every strength to a degree this game, aside from the solo bullet in the top lane, has somewhat come from this Melio pick. And it does make you believe, or make you think, that if this does go to a Game 3, will Ablaze ban it? Will Ablaze try and pick it? And how do they stop Desire now? How do they stop?
Well, it looks like they might have an answer for you. It starts off with the depth charge and the ultimate coming in from Nautilus and Sejuani pulling on through, but there's too much space. Jinx can't get in there. They've run out of damage. There's TPs coming in from the side of Fireflies. They're flying into this fight. There's 5 of them. They came out of nowhere. There's a double kill now for the Aurelion Sol. And how do you stop the Xayah? Apparently, the answer Fireflies have is you can't.
And it was... And if you do like think back to how that fight played out, it was the Nautilus ultimate being able to pick up onto that Xayah, and they just didn't follow through. They threw out their abilities and they went one by one and played it probably as slow as possible as you could play it, and in the end, not throwing everything out as the catch Milio with the Super Mega Death Rocket. In the end,
that's a silver lining.
They go 3 for 1. They lose the dragon. Xayah gets the tower for her troubles, and we're just gonna have to see if they're able to shut her down. They need to just jump her. Without a lack of better words, they need to jump her. They need to take her down. And unfortunately,
it's tricky because of the ultimate. But
unfortunately, Xayah's the least of their problems now, as Aurelion Sol is approaching 150 Stardust, does have the Sky's Descent available, is a whole completed item, and will be a menace.
Menace indeed. It takes 2 creatures to block him at the moment right now, but it really is now in Ablaze's court to come up with a concoction, a solution to this problem that they have effectively created. I think last time they had it right. It's targeting that Xayah, understanding that you have to get her and drop her. The issue was that they didn't, I think, have enough vision to recognize that Hecarim was there in the vicinity. TP's weapon ready to answer, so their damage got split apart from them. You leave a Nautilus and a Sejuani, they maybe overlap the CC a little bit, and that's room enough for Xayah to get the feathers up and down, and she's ready to turn that one around. And at the moment, it's Fireflies not letting Ablaze get a chance to turn anything around, making sure that they pick up this Herald without any real complaints.
So, I have a question for you, since we're at this point in the game where the gold lead is almost 7k. What can Ablaze really do to get back into this game? How do we think they can approach the game going forward to a full game plan?
Well, that's your job. You're the color caster. But I will say, right, looking at this composition, you do have that targeted CC, right? You have the point and click in Nautilus, you have Sejuani semi-targeted, right? He's got the AoE slow at minimum. You have to begin to find isolated targets, being that Aurelion and Xayah most keyly, and it has to be pretty much in your terms, on your side of the jungle, right? That's the point of the map that you can control. It's going to be tricky losing this mid tower here with the Herald, presuming that this is going to happen, but it is using those blind spots, it is using that vision to create pockets where you can target some of these members, but engaging like this might not be the call. We'll see how it goes. Jinx is able to get free fire. At the moment, the ultimate for Sejuani currently goes wide, the feathers are up, so it's being rigged back in between them. Aurelion Sol has now arrived, and the ultimate's gonna land across all. Huge ultimate, but the Cassiopeia is able
to pick one up in return.
It's the fight here for Jinx. We'll see what she can do. It has to be her that turns this one around. Cassiopeia hasn't got anything, and there's nothing left for Nautilus, keeping him alive as well. Ornn wasn't even there. Lilia couldn't make it, and it is 3 kills there for Fireflies.
And like you were saying, they want to take fights on their own terms, and they did to a degree. It was looking so good until it wasn't, and this series has just been that in a nutshell. It has been going so well for each one of these teams until it hasn't, as they look for an engage onto Jinx.
It's going well currently for Fireflies. We'll see if this one turns around. I don't think it will, as his 2 members already down. They get deleted. The all-out coming through across them, but they get the shutdown here.
Nice to pick up on Sol.
The campfire here on Xayah is going to keep her healthy despite diving through the tower. Lilia now looking to escape, but it's Ornn on the weaker side of the members. Feathers coming back through the Xayah, but have they got the damage to shut her down? It's Ignitar having to keep himself alive, does not do so, walks too far into the range. The feathers being pulled back through. That's another route. Campfire coming in from Milio, keeping her alive. Takes a lot of tower damage. Extending, can it land? It does. The Lilting Lullaby tick, and boom, there's a shutdown there as well. Gold back in the hands of Ablaze, and the gold lead has shrunk ever so.
And that is huge for Ollie. He has managed to pick up 2 important shutdowns on his Lilia pick, and we are going to have to see if he's now able to return back to his glory that we were allowed to see on the Kled last game. Mr. Dark Pie is still picking up gold. He did manage to get a kill for his troubles in that first fight, and he is able to still pick up some CS. He's not too far behind in relative terms behind the Sire. It's only one item, and especially when you're playing this Jinx champion, you don't particularly mind that. You know you'll outscale the enemy AD carry at some point. It's just about when and if you can with Milio being in the game.
You know, I have faith. You told me at the start of the day when you were like keeping us up, especially on the stream as well. The Dark Pie is one of those. I'll hold the point though, as the ultimate here from Cassiopeia is going to interrupt Aurelian's ult in his breathing. Interrupts the Q as well. The Seraph Shield coming out. Clutch here for Cassiopeia, but the slow
look at the
Q is just too much. And let's Hecarim run her down. 4 legs is better than none. The Jinx ult coming down as well. It's not going to do too much, but hit the Milio, I believe. So kill there picked up, and it's not in favor of Ablaze. As I was saying, you're looking towards Dark Pie again, being that carry. You said he's one of those late game hyperscales reassurance points, that 500 CS of a win condition that was once upon a time memed, but the Fireflies still keeping on top of the ball, not letting them get that chance.
And they do have at least 10 minutes. They have the time to do so. They have the wave clear, so Baron's not really necessarily in it too much of an issue. What is really holding Ablaze back at this point in the game is, will they lose to themselves? And I don't mean that in a negative manner, I mean that in a positive manner, in the sense of, are they going to play too aggressive? Have they got the discipline to turtle? Will they be able to funnel at least one more item into that Jinx and the Cassiopeia as the Infinity Edge is now completed for that Jinx?
Yeah, complete, that's big.
Are we going to be able to see them discipline themselves? They have shown that they have had discipline, and they haven't throughout the series from both teams. So can we see it going into the next 5 to 9 minutes?
Of course,
will
like
they get caught out?
It's also up to Fireflies to make sure they clean closely, right? Because sure, Xayah could mishap not get the ultimate up in time, could not sell refillables for control wards, could just get absolutely blown up. As we said, you can layer that CC. It's up to the members of Fireflies still to make sure that they perform as well throughout the rest of this game as they have, and not just assume that they've won because they have the lead. Because of course, if they lose this game, they lose the series, right? You can't really afford to drop, but then do you afford to hesitate? So now with Baron on the board, it's up to them to make sure that the next thing that happens is them favored and not on the terms of Ablaze, who are still backfooting, but they're looking for something here in their jungle. It's on to Ornn, however.
Ornn's on the target, Jinx gets engaged on.
And it's Jinx here on the backside, but they are able to pilfer her. That's the ultimate, as it should be used from Sejuani, keeping that Jinx alive. They now have a numbers advantage, and it's the smite from Fireflies that are dead. They had to not give over opportunity to Ablaze. They had to play it carefully, and they walked too far deep into the enemy jungle. Let's see what they can do, see how they can rally. They are still up a lot of gold. They are still up ultimates. What can happen here? Sejuani here being engaged on. The Chomp is coming down, creating a bit of space. It's Ignitar at the front line by himself. LEP from Cassiopeia comes in, gets the Miasma down, and then backs away. So more spent from the side of both teams, and no yield really for anyone.
And the one thing I want to praise, we haven't seen it in the last couple fights, but this Milio's ultimates, as the fight breaks out, I'll hold my point.
Oh, that's an excellent hook there from Nautilus to dissuade Ram, but we'll see how the fight goes on the other side. They still are up members. Hecarim running across the map. Keep your eyes over there, but it looks like neither team wants any more of that. They all got a little bit too spooked, a little too hyped, and decided to let that all die down, so ooh, it's tense.
And these Milio ults have been on point, keeping both Aurelion Sol and Xayah fully in the game, fully in these fights, and especially in that one there. There is some skill to Milio, and I guess we're getting to see it.
Enchanters are pretty... There's some ceiling to enchant.
There is some ceiling.
There is. You can just miss your target and not shield anyone at all. That's pretty bad. It's not great. Melee's a lot easier. Most of your things are untargeted, but still, timing that ultimate right, Captain Jack Cleanse and AoE is extremely powerful and potent. Has, so far as you highlight, did well to keep his carries afloat and alive amongst the storm that was that weird little tidbit of a fight. So it's now back in this Cold War.
I will direct your attention to the inventories of Fireflies as that first ornament comes out. They're looking for Jinx.
Jinx is by herself. 4 members on the other side of the map. Flashes, tries to get the blast cone, create some space, but there's still 4 members of Fireflies. He can't get anywhere. There's a counter engage. Nautilus able to buffer the hook, but Reli's ult doesn't care. He comes flying over. The ultimate's coming over. They're looking for them all, but in the meantime, Sejuani uses the ultimate to engage onto Hecarim, but hasn't got the support. It's an exchange play. Milio does a very good job of keeping him alive again. So Fireflies, they take a Jinx and they take a lot more. Ooh. No, yeah, more shielding. Campfire coming out. Hecarim's going to find the Drowsy comes in though. The sleep. And we're just going to nap on that one. That's fine. No problem.
Like I was saying, that first ornament has come out for the upgraded, the very quick blades, and we are going to just have to see what Ablaze can do. They have at least still 10 minutes they can give this Baron. Are they going to be able to steal it? Possibly not.
No, still there. The Jigsaw comes around. No smite in range. That one is cleanly picked up this time by Fireflies. And so they get their recalls, and they take their 2 7-1 carries and their masterwork items. They're going to start to trench them up the map and not let Ablaze get that 10 minutes that they would ever so like to put in Jinx.
And I mean, if they get this dragon, that timer gets restarted. They shouldn't. They're going to have to look for a pick. They're going to have to look for this Hecarim. They need to keep Jinx alive.
And get the objective bounty as Hecarim flying in after the Drake's gone down, and he's going to be the first one to pull your pin. Jinx gets excited, but gets shut down instantly. For the Aurelian Soul. Keep your eyes on that Zai, who's flashing forwards now, has the excitement herself to get through this river of this Ablaze. Team members going to walk here into the Asma. They think they can get this one, trying to get the feathers down, gets grounded, gets hit by the Lilting Lullaby. So it's Dragon in favor of Ablaze, but the fight and maybe more in favor of Fireflies as they look to get closer to the end of this game.
And now that timer has restarted, they do have another 9.5 minutes, but will this push be too great for them? Will they be able to keep themselves disciplined for the rest of this game? Will they be able to hold on and get that tiny bit of extra gold into their pockets to try and catch out that Xayah, who now has the Immortal Shield Bow finished, who now has Lord Dominance finished? While this Asol was just having the time of his life, 3 items completed for both of the Fireflies carries.
And there's nothing stopping him. The last couple of fights, he's just kind of casually glid into the team fight, no problem, lazily flying through the wall, holding Q, and it's just done absolute work. Presses are a little ways away, and then that's kind of it. That's been the story for Ablaze's team fights, is everything falls on top of them, and there's not a lot they can do about it. So You hope now, as an Ablaze fan, that these 9 minutes now falling is enough time that Jinx can keep herself alive in these team fights, because it doesn't seem that the members are doing... well, not that they can't do everything they can, I'm sure they are. It's just a case that it's really, really difficult to get anything substantial that does keep this Jinx alive because of this type of composition that Fireflies have brought to fruition. They do now at least have not really, difficulty farming, as the waves are really going to be pushing in. If they got any hit, it would be a little better. So Jinx here now in a position where if she can get to that level 16, get that 5 minutes in, maybe start to turn this one around. But in 2 and 7, it's not looking the most fruitful.
And it is in Fireflies' hands. As much as we want to see them be disciplined and to try and take this game as slow as possible, it is in Fireflies' hands to end the game. They have the tools to do so, and they are ahead enough where if they catch the Jinx, they catch the Cassiopeia, the game could just be over.
Could just be over if you catch the Jinx or catch the Cassio. Those are the words we will cast by for the last portion of this game, assuming that it does end as disciplined as a Fireflies fan would like. So it's looking to be a case of how they want to close. They have now established their 1-3-1 composition that was maybe a little slow to get going. They've been milling around here with the Milio, just kind of loitering, finding little bits of gold, clearing the jungle, farming up this storm. But of course, that's time for Jinx as she needs. She's ahead in CS on this Xayah. She's being funneled as much as possible. The Ornn here looking to get this wave, so it's a case here where the game's kind of staunched. They don't feel confident enough to start to look for picks. They haven't got the vision. They haven't got the wave management yet to bring this one home. But I'm sure they're still hungry. They're still looking. They bring some of this vision here into this top side. They bring some of these waves in now. They're looking a lot more set up.
Keep your eyes focused on that Aurelian Soul. 338 Stardust coming out. He does have the Skies Descenders. They are looking for something in the top lane.
They're looking for something in the top lane. Cassio thought she had something, but it didn't do any damage to Ornn. Oh my god, he just absolutely ate that tower. And that's another one gone. That's tier 2 tower gold into the team's pockets. That lead is growing ever so more and more. It's just a case of how hard they can slap them with it. The vision here is somewhat decent for Ablaze. They know what's going on. They might have a pick here, but on Tworn, it's not the one you want. They're being cautious about it. They're keeping themselves steady. And they're just gonna keep the turtle going. Tetsudo, let's go.
And the other thing to take into consideration is that Baron has run out. We have got 35 seconds on the clock for Ocean Dragon. That means we have around 5 minutes. With 5 minutes before Soul, 10 minutes before Elder. And realistically, if I'm an Ablaze player, if I'm an Ablaze fan, if I'm an Ablaze coaching staff, I would be wanting my team to not go for this fight. We do not care about getting this dragon. We care about winning the game. And in my eyes, if you take this fight, which they are thankfully not, it could be a lost cause.
Yep. Well, for me as an Ablaze fan, I'm staring at this dragon timer and seeing it's only 25 seconds. The dragon's not going to last that long, but for me, I'd love to clear out this topside vision, kind of make an effort as a team to make sure that you have a path there, because if your game's not going to go 5 minutes, it's because you lost out at that Baron, either the team fight or the Baron itself. So it's now a clear-cut line, it looks like, for Fireflies, as they start to head out towards this topside and do exactly as I suggest.
I think you're a little behind me.
Let's see this.
I
can't go any further.
Oh, maybe you're on the same time.
31, 38, 39.
Yeah, no, we're there.
Yeah,
Apparently you're
no,
done. My bad.
Maybe I'm just mentally behind. Yeah, I'm a
maybe.
play-by-play caster. I can't be blamed for such things.
The one thing we have to take into consideration now, 3 items completed on those carries for Ablaze.
Yes.
Where are things going to go? Yes, they are still behind 10k gold. Yes, the enemy team is up 3 dragons to 2. But we do have that Jinx. We do have that Cassiopeia as a looking. They may have caught
We
the
have
Jinx.
that Jinx, and she is getting engaged on Flash Blast Code and everything else. She cleanses to her death. The Ornhorn comes across the team as well. They're looking to make this fight the last. You got to keep your eyes on the Casco as well, but she's gone. You can't even see her. Double kill for the Aurelian Soul as they quickly end the fight. As soon as it starts, they find Jinx out of position. The ace picked up for Xayah there at the end. TP for Aurelian Soul into the mid lane. The tower's next to go, the inhibitor's next to go, and the towers and the Nexus, I think, are going to follow.
And that is why you ban Akko's Aurelian Soul. So many teams in Division 3 have fallen to that champion, to that pick, and now Ablaze is its next victim as the series is equaled up 1-1.
We are going to Div 2 scrapes. Aurelian Soul picks up its first win here in Div 2 after claiming many alive, as you say, in Div 3. So it's exciting. It's getting warmer as we get to our final climation of tonight's action. We'll bring you Game 3 shortly. We'll probably take a break quickly here and catch you back up with our expectations, predictions, and the draft when we return.
Indeed, and we will be back shortly with a little break.
Find me in the corner of the room, not ready to resume, 'cause like I'm taking, don't wanna
And the stage is only more and more tense. Hello, everyone, and welcome back as you join us ahead of Game 3 for our Balanced Division 2, where we are really at the cusp here because Game 1 felt quite convincing one way towards the end. Quite convincing, really, a really convincing, I should say, performance here from Fireflies. So our expectations for Game 3, leading back to Investor 1, is really shot. It's all over the place. It could go either way.
And the one thing to take away for both of these teams are the last two games didn't necessarily matter. The last two games now are irrelevant. We take it forward, we reset, we put our all to these games. And the question will be, will Mr. Darkpie be able to play the game? Will he get focused? Will he be able to have the same performance he had going into Game 1? And on the flip side, will Fireflies be able to completely control the map like they did in Game 2? Will they be getting solo bolos from top to bot to catching people out? It's really going to come down to this.
It really truly does, right? And we were talking about it, like our first take after the game closed was that level 1, although I'd forgotten about it during the game, thinking back became really, really important, right? Because it set up the dominoes that allowed the Hecarim to repeat gank Mr. Darkpie, which never really let him get his foot in the door in this game, and Fireflies were then able to continue to close the door on them. Maybe not as fast as you would like, but it was still convincing really throughout. And I feel like really I'll take to see if that fruition is going to be coming from the draft. As I say, it begins, right? Because Fireflies lost Game 1. Although you say these don't matter, they are still tape.
Indeed.
It's still data, and of course that bleeds over with like draft, right? So here, the Akali unchanged, but is there anything here that you would change as Fireflies, or were you happy with the bans?
So I think Fireflies bans will stay the same. I think they'll take their adaptations from Game 2. And what I was about to say is I think the Draven ban will possibly be the only ban that stays for Ablaze. I think Milia is too powerful to be left open. I think it's very, very clear, especially with the changes to the items, but necessarily to that champion's trading patterns, its abusiveness. Being able to just do dot damage at level 1 is enough to sometimes end the lane.
Yeah, with the shield 2 casts as well that come with it, it makes it, oh, I got engaged on, never mind, we'll just turn it. Oh, we want to engage, I drop the shield, and it's movement speed as well as dot damage and shield, so
And
it makes sense that Aurelion would go as well. Sorry, the Amelia, I mean, but Aurelion, yeah, I'm glad to see it.
Echoes Aurelion, it's gone. The Wukong coming out again, so it is a repeat of those Game 2 bans, and it would not surprise me if the Amelia gets banned here. The only other pick I could see them banning will be that Ezreal to keep Zen off it. But I think if they pick the Ezreal, it does open some very unique bot lane options, such as Kaiser.
Yep.
Xayah is the option.
Yeah, I was thinking here like the Ezreal. It's kind of the same boat as Xayah, right? Xayah's more of the team fighting carry, Ezreal's more of the skirmishing, I imagine, right? With the chip and the poke in their ass. So for me, it feels like because of the Blink with the Ezreal and Xayah's ultimate, they kind of effectively have the same strength that Ablaze would want to target, and they found that Xayah was the better for the team fight. So I think I preferred that adaptation, taking away the Xayah over the Ezreal. I think Zenvius definitely looked comfortable on that Xayah. And speaking of looking comfortable, Sesh King gets that Nelia that you were talking very fondly of.
And this is where the Kaiser comes out. They're expecting Ezreal to maybe be one of the options with Milia, but one of the other options that's with Milia is semi-bad into Kaiser Nautilus. Ashe would probably be the pick here for Fireflies, but it is really going to be, will Ashe be able to auto-attack? How can Nautilus threaten that Ashe if they do go for the Ashe, and will Kaiser be able to control the game? Now, Kaiser's a good talking point. All the item changes that have happened in 1310 do point to Kaiser being very strong as the Elise is unleashed onto the Rift. Elisa TP must be happy about being able to play his one trick.
And I was so comfortable thinking that Elise would just never get through it that I didn't notice that the Elise didn't get banned. So this is going to be big, I feel like, coming into a Game 3, especially giving an OTP namesake champion, that champion, that's a lot of opportunity,
And
but
there's
then
the
maybe that's a lot
Ezreal.
of pressure as well. And there's the Ezreal, previously ban-worthy, leaks through the draft in exchange for Zaya. We'll have to see if Ablaze regret that one as we move on to phase 2 bans with the Mordekaiser lock.
Mordekaiser's interesting. Mordekaiser's very interesting. If this ends up being a Mordekaiser jungle, we could end up seeing some very funny shenanigans, especially towards that bot side. But I do think it will be heading towards the top lane.
Yes.
The Malphite ban is pointing to it not, but obviously it could just be a red herring, and we will have to see. I am expecting some mid bans here again. I think Yasuo is a target for them, and I think maybe they remove the Pantheon again. So there goes the Yasuo.
Yeah.
Um,
Schools.
Ornn being the
Okay,
fourth
so yeah,
ban.
it's the top lane engages that they're afraid of. I think not so much like the laning phase, although limit testing definitely seemed comfortable on those champions, making the most of those for sure. I do also like the Mordekaiser tech here because, of course, at least greater diving Mordekaiser can turn any 2v1 into a 1v1 and negates that pressure. The Pantheon, the last ban, keeping true to the previous bans, of course.
And I think
Fireflies.
the one thing to take away and point out is these bans, these 4 and 5 bans being Malphite, Ornn, are not necessarily picks you would want to ban as a Mordekaiser. So I am considering it's a Nautilus top. This draft has gone crazy. I can't comment on this.
Well,
Victor?
we'll comment on what comes along, right?
Well,
Because we have
we can
Victor
comment
now
about
locked in as
Fireflies,
well.
but Victor
And we'll
and
have to see where it
Aatrox.
goes, yeah, right? Because until that last pick's locked in, I'm not sure of anything. And maybe even on the Rift, they're gonna swap around and players can end up in different lanes. So the Victor locked in, another one of those picks previously banned. I love the Renekton here, of course. Any caster worth a salt will know Elisa Renekton combo is a
Mundo.
classic golden oldie and has never really fallen off, but it's the Mundo that is favoured here by Fireflies.
And Mundo is the pick that will possibly seal this draft shut. Currently, they do not have a lot of health damage for the side of Ablaze, but Kled would fix that. Ollie back on his Kled. And it is making me wonder, is this a Nautilus mid into the Victor? Or a Mordekaiser mid? It could be a Nautilus jungle. We're just going to have to see where these swaps end up taking us.
Well, it currently looks like... I feel like, to me, that the current arrangement, as we see on screen, is what I would expect, right? I think it feels best. Kled had perfectly fine laning phase. He's going to have to meet the same expectation here into Mundo and trade grasps again. It's going to be so much fun, but... Ooh, it's pensive. I'm not too sure.
I'm just
fan
waiting.
of Fireflies' comp because it feels early, but then it feels late with Mundo and scaling. It hasn't got the same true fighting heart that it did before. I'm split. I'm really split on this one. Convince me one way.
I think the comp for Fireflies does fit their strengths. Not
Okay.
as much as the last one. Obviously, you have two people on their OTPs, right? So it's
Yes.
hard to say it doesn't. But the comp for the side of Ablaze is interesting. Because in theory, Nautilus should be able to have a semi-okay laning phase into that Victor until he gets the E-Augment. Kaiser and Thresh should have a very, very good lane into Ezreal. So it makes you think these early game, aggressive comps that I said fit Fireflies like a glove are not necessarily what they've got. Obviously, they do have Elise OTP on his Elise, and they do have a very strong Ezreal pick. But they do have the Mordekaiser to stop that. I mean, how do you play this game as Elise if you get Mordekaiser ulted when you jump in? You're effectively using the Cocoon to try and set your team up, and then you're not really playing to Elise's strengths. So we are going to have to see if Kaiser... I mean, these two games have literally been, does Ezreal in Zen, does Kaiser in Mr. Darkpie get to free hit? And will the middle laners impact the map like they have done in both games 1 and 2?
become weirdly quite the microcosm of the kind of meta we've seen at MSI, right? In that junglers have, as always and traditionally, been like super impactful towards that early game, and it's where they put their priority that kind of dictates where these games have gone. And at MSI has been towards teams peeling and team fighting for their AD carries. Those have been the crucial key points. And again, we're looking at two compositions where it's Kai'Sa and Ezreal that are going to have to bring these team comps to the Nexus, right? And you can argue one way or the other for the other champions, right? Victor's not going to be a non-factor. Milio's going to help peel and do all these other things, right? But it is going to come down to these players and how well they pilot them and how well the teams coordinate with them, right? Mordekaiser has tools to get in onto Ezreal, but of course Ezreal has escapes. Milio has peel. Elise can protect that, although then Elise is not playing. So this compositions, whilst they aren't perhaps maximized, they are incredibly, incredibly layered. And I think I'm just excited to see how that gets to in that late game. As you say, it depends on how these carries perform when they get to those points. Who gets to free hit? Who starts that fight? So talk to me then about this bot lane, I guess, in detail as to how you expect those trades to go. What are we looking at for bot lane?
So short trades will always favor Fireflies. Having the trade patterns, obviously, in the Milio we spoke about a lot last game with that AoE dot, and Ezreal probably going to be taking the PTA just for a bit of extra oomph in lane, but he will very much enjoy hitting those Qs and walking away. The second they get an engage onto the Milio, onto the Ezreal for the side of Ablaze, it could look scary. Kai'Sa is going to be looking to get those 5 stacks of her passive and pop someone. And especially as these first items are completed, I am looking to see if we're going to get the Gwynsia's Rageblade on the Kai'Sa as my as my game crashes, so you'll have to hold with me when we get in. But I am looking to see if she goes for the Gwynsia's build, if she goes for an on-hit type Kai'Sa build, where she's just going to be doing that hybrid damage. She is going to be able to get to 100 AP very quickly. She is going to be getting that attack speed and the AD from that item, so it is going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, traditionally Darkpie here, third time in a row starting that call, looking towards that scaling. Let me know when you're on the Rift, by the way, because we have
I'm up
just
to date.
gone.
I'm up to date.
We're up to date, cool. So we're all on the same page here, as is the team of Ablaze walking in here
And
as 5.
This invade's a little risky, but if it is pulled off, it could put them in a position where this game is fully in their control. Milio's walking up as they've got the double hook available.
Double hook available, as you say. It is a very potent level 1 in that case, although risky as any one level can be.
And
so they're going to get the sword. It's 5 gold given away.
I do like them wrapping around and the Kai'Sa walking up to try and make them walk a little further as a ward's dropped into the bot side jungle for both teams. It is looking like they are going to be forcing or attempting to force a split map, but I am looking forward to seeing if we get a 3-man top fight.
Oh, it could be the case, but it might not be fully 3-man, as Mordekaiser is going to be late to this party. The bear trap pulls Elise back in. Victor's walking up. Here goes pop here for Mordekaiser. He's looking to chase in here. Look for that CC. It's going to be important at level 1. It's going to be a Mundo looking. He's going to have to flash away. He walks away to do so. It's still the ghosted Mordekaiser here. Check your health bars. Mundo a little low. Nautilus lower again. Clyde going to get to the lane first, but it's Elise walking back into the jungle. Ping's coming down as well. They're looking and wanting for this. They've left Mordekaiser alone with 2 members here. Clyde's not turning around. Nautilus has left him alone. Mordekaiser just gets pushed off his buff and he's half health already. Can he stick around? What is Elise going to do? He's a main. He knows exactly what he can do with
on
Elise.
The mid side, look at Kled.
But on top side, as you say, look at Kled. He's putting those spears and those bits of bombs. Flashes with the conch. First blood for that solo bowler, and again the top lane delivers and the level 1 doesn't let us down either. Oh, it's not over yet. There's a level 2 Elise here. It finds a Mordekaiser walking into that punch, and he's dead as well. That's the second solo bowler of the game. It's only 2 minutes. Having to flash here on the top side as well. We said it was all about the bottom lane, and in the investment of getting bot lane ahead, the top side is absolutely madness.
And I am looking to see what Mordekaiser can do. He is pathing towards that top side as Elise is already on his Raptors. And it's looking slightly worrying if he's not able to get that little bit of gold and experience soon. He is going to fall so far behind.
He has no farm. If he checks tab, he will know that Elise, I think, doesn't have Krugs. That's fine.
Look at
Might
Ollie.
not have a top laner either. No bear trap on a rope to chase that one down. Limit testing. Really, very much at the limit. Just gets out of that one, but has already burnt the TP. I'm going to check the gold. It is currently in favor of Fireflies, but with the status of these waves and their members, I'm not too sure it's going to stay that way.
And I do apologize to Twitch chat. We are having some technical difficulties with the software due to players not being in order. So you should now be able to see the stream.
Perfect, and
Okay,
it's just in
topside.
time here for Ollie to try and remount. Does succeed out there, so
He's gonna
Mundo
get- he's
kept
gonna get
his fight
both
off.
of them?
He's stuck between the two health bars, but one of them is now gone. At least he's going to have to reset, and his top laner is dead without TP, so Ollie's lead is getting away with it, really, let's be honest. He's got himself a skateboard, and he's doing more than just Ollie's. He's got backflips and lots of points, and Tony Hawks would be proud.
Just to give a little recap for what they were not able to see, there was an invade on the top side. There was a bit of fumbling as the Mordekaiser was solo killed by Elise. They have now managed to catch Semi back up with each other, trading red buffs across. And it is looking like they're going for a gank on mid lane. Very nice flash.
Ooh, that is as nice as a flash there can get. Saves his life with that one. I am massively impressed. Escapes the three-man threat here. Smite's coming down. I think that went the way there of Elise. Mordekaiser here picking up the majority of their camp. It's now Victor. Flash forward Flay here from
Huge.
the support. It gets the other hook, but that one goes slightly wide.
Milio's
the
walked
support.
up.
It's Mordekaiser here that dies first. Victor's able to keep himself alive. Hasn't got an art mana, but he has got auto attacks to put in the back, and it's Elise with the little spiderlings chewing up there the support. So it's what was Ablaze kicking off is put and doused out by the Fireflies.
And at least OTP must be happy with how this game is going. He has been relegated to these not so comfortable junglers, I'll call them, but now back on his strong champ as Ollie looks for a fight in the middle lane.
Yeah, gonna get the repel off on the backside of that bear trap. Does get himself to safety. Definitely looking comfortable on that champion, and what we thought was a matter of bot lane really isn't. It's currently a matter of 2 OTPs.
And the one thing to point out, that fight around the Raptor camp, Milio had sprinted as fast as his little legs could from the bottom lane to that Raptor camp, keeping Akko alive and making it a 2-0. I have to praise this guy again and again. His Milio has been on point.
Or you could say on fire.
You could, but I feel like that would be Ablaze.
But surely Fireflies.
Well, I feel like Ablaze are on fire because it's not going so well.
But surely on fire's doing well. Or is it
Well.
bad? Or is it good? Or is that bad? At the moment, it's not that bad. 600, 700 gold, flexing in and out. It's not ideal for sure, but we've seen, I think, a bigger lead at this point. Oh,
Hook
that
goes
hook
wide.
spelled trouble there for Akano. That just ever so escaped a fate he didn't know he was walking into. So yeah, at the moment, this game has certainly been delivering. It's been on fire all across the map. It's now basically a case of who can put that fire out first. Is it going to be the Elise getting shut down or the Kled getting curbed, I guess?
Indeed. And I think the strong points for both of these teams are where they want to be at this current state in the game. If those things stay where they are and nobody else gets ahead, it is favoured towards Ablaze. This Kled looking for another solo bolo, but he is showing his prowess on that champion. He is showing how far he is ahead, where Elise may have to worry.
Yeah, worried indeed as she finds herself in the mix of another 3v3 in mid. Supports in here in tow. Mordekaiser kind of on the backside of this one. Can't really get the lantern. Does just about get it now as his 2 hook champ friends get out of there. So it's a win again for Fireflies, but nothing really yielded but summoners.
And the worrying part of this is we've hit 50 CS on the Victor. We've hit 2 assists. That E augment will have been upgraded. And
Yeah,
now
it's there,
Nautilus's
it's definitely-
time is going to be hard.
This time time is going to be hard. He's already down a number of CS. He's struggling with that mantle. He hasn't been doing too well if you've been keeping your eyes peeled when the camera does come round to mid lane. So it's now got a whole lot harder, and with Elise pretty much in his back pocket, the amount of skirmishes we've had around this mid lane is probably surely to go. Herald now on the board. Cloud Drake, sorry, on the table too. It's up to these teams to see what they do with these tools.
Indeed, and it really makes me wonder how things are going to go. Again, we have a champion that will fall off, as Ollie has got Mundo in a very big predicament.
Yeah, man, that predicament that he's inside of is called the Fountain, and it's now at least in trouble. Ghost procced here for Ignitar, so it's just, yeah, that's a bit back in the pockets of Ablaze, and it's keeping this gold lead a little bit smaller, which we like to see.
And it is now equaled. For the first time in the series, at 9 minutes into the game, the gold is equal. Both teams are on similar footing, as it is looking like we might get a skirmish at the Rift Herald.
We might indeed. The Spider
That's conceded.
Tries to steal the Herald, but sadly little W Elise Spiders don't have that luxury. And yeah, it's really odd to think that this game is even, because it feels so weighted in different places, right? It is
Indeed.
Pretty much your chips are on different points on the board. We're playing roulette here with who can get those shutdowns and who can get to these fights first. And in this case, it's Ablaze getting to the Herald far before Fireflies have anything to say about it. So now there's opportunity for Ignitar to make something happen and start to break out from this stagnation. It's probably not going to stay stagnated for long.
As Ollie engages onto the top side, it does feel like he's playing blackjack, and he is getting all aces. He is completely taking over this top side, and it has been these two top laners wanting to fight constantly this entire series, and now Ollie is able to do what limit testing did in the last game. Will he be able to extend it further? Because if he does, it's looking very troublesome.
As trouble might be about to start here. The camera takes us over to the Drake.
Here goes wide.
The Smite fight got to come down. The repel. It's going the way of Mordekaiser, at least now.
Next
having to
into the death realm.
Here is low. He's into the death realm. And in the meantime, the fight here, the top side. Kaiser currently half health, untouched. Got a Victor and an Ezreal knocked up, but it's not enough. Mordekaiser comes out the death realm. Charge in behind. Gets that shutdown on Elise. Washed out the drain in the river. The Fireflies come flying in with fire. The flash forward with Bear Trap coming in as well. The plasma stack for Kaisha, she's got to get it. She gets that kill onto Victor. Is chasing forward more with Kled. He gets dismounted, but that only means he can remount. The hook dashed away from here from the Ezreal. The second one lands, and it's coming up Ablaze.
And that went as perfectly as it could for Ablaze. It was unfortunate. Ignitar did fall in that fight, but he got the smite off, he got that dragon, and it is putting more and more in favour to him. We are having to look, the next 4 minutes are going to be important because it's coming up as a Hextech dragon.
Hextech dragon, and that means so much for these carries that we've talked about. It means a lot for the Kled as well. Mordekaiser wouldn't hate it either, so Ablaze put themselves on good footing with the dragons. And limit testing unable to get in there kind of leaves that fight 5-4, even though the Mordekaiser gets taken out at the first hurdle. So much is spent getting into the pit that Fireflies haven't got enough gas in the tank to run that 4v4. And at least Mundo gets to go even in farm, but he's staring down 5 kills on a mythic.
And the other thing to take into consideration is they are dropping a Herald into the top lane. They are feeding more and more gold to Ollie, who had such a good performance on that Kled in the first game, and he's looking to repeat it. Again, we've been talking about this bot lane the entire series, but it is becoming more and more the Ollie show, and I'm sure Twitch chat are loving it.
Yeah, that's first tower gold for that Kled now as well. Be curious to see what those gold numbers are. I've forgotten what the button is, so if you could swap it over for stream and let us know. As Elise repels away from the Mordekaiser ultimate, but has not got her way out from
They're looking for Ollie.
Doesn't get the Gromp, gets the bonk instead, and Bear Trap on her up 300 gold for Ollie, and he's happier still.
His game point as a hook hits Milio.
anything happening. Sorry, I got overhyped.
No, I think we both are. The gold differentiance is, you won't expect it, 3,300 gold of that gold lead is in Ollie's pockets. He is having the time of his life, as you can tell by the emote game being on point. And I am wondering when these 80 carries are going to come online. There is a 1k gold lead for the Kaiser, so it is looking a little interesting in the bottom lane.
My concern is here for bot lane is that they will have had this nice cozy bot lane for once, a true 2v2 duos dream, really. And they're gonna come out, they're like, right, we're ready. It's a Baron, it's whatever. We're gonna team fight, we're gonna do it, and they're gonna have no gold compared to anyone else because they've just been handing each other 300 gold bags this entire game with all this skirmishing that the bot lane have just got farm, but nothing else to their name. So we'll have to see if this bot lane can get involved in some way, or if they're going to be that reserve and they're just going to carry them out to this 40-minute game where they can get that gold and become relevant no matter the amount of skirmishing in this early game. So it's now in the cards for players to start moving around the map. The first tower has broken, plates have literally just turned off, and teleports have become unleashed. So the game is about to evolve, and where do we think it's going?
I think the one thing to take into consideration for the rest of this game is the early game has been coming up Ablaze. But if you really think about it, Ablaze's gold is all in the pockets of Ollie, and the carries for Fireflies are semi-ahead, if not ahead, of the side of Ablaze, aside from Ollie. If you look, Victor has almost finished his Morel Omicron. There we go. I did it my best impression. And we have got the Trinity Force finished for the Ezreal as the fight looks to be happening in mid lane.
Yeah, speaking of finish, that might be one of Lisa's actually gets done in. No repel available. Ollie in the river. See how much further this one goes. Mordekaiser here, not in trouble, but in the Shadow Realm gets instantly cleansed there by Milio. Hook is coming up clutch, and the Deathgrass pulls two more in to the party for Ablaze as they set the mid lane on fire. Nearly the third hook to boot, but it should at least be this tower.
And in the bottom side of the map, Mr. Darkpie is able to take down that tower. They have, in fact, gone 3 for 0 in the fight. 4 for 0 in that fight. And they do get a dragon for their troubles, and Ablaze must be happy with this. Ollie comfortably sat with 88 kills. He is now up 4,000 gold in that top lane matchup.
The silver lining here for Fireflies is that it is currently all in that one basket, right? As you're leading up to that skirmish, Victor is ahead of the Nautilus, right? He's got even Shroud, which I quite like, but it is not necessarily a threat. Kaiser is still waiting to get there, and Ezreal is at par, so you do have opportunity. Mundo is still going to be a bar of health that you have to chew through. It's just a case of making sure that should you get to these 5v5s, it is Kled that is the first one to fall. You have Milio, you have Peel, you have Frontline. There are tools available to Fireflies. It's just a case of making sure that they are all coming together, because there is not a lot of room that Ollie's going to give them for mistakes.
And it's much like last game was for Ablaze. Fireflies have to be selective in their fights. They have to have some sort of control. Because if they do not, they will not get online fully with their 2 carries. Remember, we have the scaling picks of Ezreal and Victor.
Have to hold the point, however, because Ollie is not holding back with the charge. Engages straight on. The Fireflies are getting flown in on and about as the Kaiser comes on in. Gets nearly that kill there onto Mundo. So think spent here from Ablaze, but I think only Summoners gained in exchange.
And they are just flexing the fact they are ahead. They are flexing that they have map control, and Fireflies almost came out with a kill there in return. So it isn't looking completely doomed for them. Remember, we have got the Victor, the Ezreal, these 2 champions that are insanely good scaling champions, and the damage for Ablaze is a little lackluster. They have Ollie, who's far ahead, and Kaiser, who's not known for the most consistent damage.
Yeah, it does managed to steal away the red buff. Does Mordekaiser here. Gets the lantern to get away with it as well. So a little bit of a reversal here in the jungle from how it started. Now going the way of Ignitar. Contrary to the beginning expectations. I was expecting maybe a lap into that bot lane, but as you're saying, right, it's getting close to that point where the game is looking the reverse of last. It's a convincing 6k lead, 2 Drakes in the pockets. There's a Herald yet to be used as well. It's now a question of how Ablaze are looking to transition and get ready, as Baron's coming up next as the big objective.
Now, if I was Fireflies, I wouldn't be feeling bad either, though. You've come from Division 3, you had a very good split, and you won. And you've taken a game off Ablaze. In fact, now you're semi-close. The game is not looking over one bit. And
No. Oh, sure.
my hat goes off to them. They are showing why they are here and why they won. And
I have been, admittedly, considering the expectation you set me, that they're like trending upwards and they had a close finals, that perhaps they weren't clear in head shoulders above, but it's very clear from this game, right, the quality that you've set up here for Ablaze, and they're matching it. And as you say, this game is still winnable. The way we've seen these games evolve so far is that they don't ever really seem to be convincingly over, even if it's like 90-80%.
There's a looking for swing on the bot lane.
Nexus is gone, and in that event they're gonna get the flash out of Victor, put him into the death realm. Gonna let Ollie concede a kill this time, overtaking Natar, assuming he picks that one up and does get that
Now
sweet
they're looking for Elise.
here. Might get his first chance to play the game unless Kled has something to do about it, but it's
Huge
Elise here.
shield.
Being focused down first, gonna get the charge here to follow up on to Ezra, who flashes forward over
That's
it, is
a big
unable
flash.
with the damage to get that one down on Mordekaiser. It's a bold and brave flash. Million able to support him. The TP coming in there as well from the Nautilus, and now they have 4 members do Ablaze on this bottom side. They have taken out 3 members of the Fireflies, and now they will look for their 4th tower. The Herald spawned just in time as well. They might even look for
looking
more.
for an
Kaiser
inhib.
and answered in mid too. There's no answer here from Limit Testing. He's looking to get that shutdown bounty. To be fair, I don't think there's a lot he can do in this onslaught cracking into the base here. It is pretty much the event of Minas Tirith. They're going to have to wait for that
huge
game,
hook.
but I'm not get the
caught
chance.
him
The
out.
Orcs Kara rushing on in. It's the healing here from Milio keeping Victor alive. Does do so. They peel now back to the Herald. It's Kaiser here on the side. She could be caught out. She could be caught straggling. The repel comes down. The cocoon lands. She's tanking up the tower. The spider
big
comes in,
hook
but the
coming out
hook
from
is there
Thresh.
to save. And he holds straight back in. He doesn't care. He flashes over the lantern. He doesn't need it. Mr. Darkpie lives up to his first game expectations and starts to send them home here in game 3. Turret again destroyed as a result for the effort. And Ablaze, it's not looking over till it's over close. It's suddenly not as close as it was.
And it was looking so good for Ablaze. And then it was looking so good for Fireflies. And that fight, how it broke out, it was looking like Mordekaiser was going to drop. But then they just went in one by one by one. And unfortunately, Ablaze managed to pick them up. They've managed to crack and inhibit a tower. And it makes you think, where is the game going to go in the next 2 to 3 minutes as the 3rd dragon is now being taken by the side of Ablaze. It is an Infernal Dragon, it is Infernal Soul, and when they are that far ahead, I would not want to see them with that soul.
I would not either. That bruiser Kled, ooh, smites that one just before the Arcane Barrage finds that mark. So, yeah, as you're saying, right, 1 point now away from Soul. It's so poignant and so beautiful that it's the Infernal Soul, considering the fiery analogies that we have going on this game as well. But yeah, the point I mean to make here is that Ollie, currently very far ahead with an Infernal Soul, he's going to become an assassin and a bruiser, really, at this point as well. Kaiser W's flying across the map is going to become more and more potent in that event as well. So it is looking more and more
They're
dire
looking
as
for
this game
Mundo.
stretches on. Look for Monday. They find him here recalling in the bush, trying to get out of there. That's the hook to get rid of the spell shield, and the god goes the way of Mr. Dark Pie, and it's starting to look more and more like they have their secondary, primary drafting carry online, Dark Pie, and it might just be the nail in the coffin as this Baron is uncontested.
And after the series we've had, like you've said, they've set the Rift on fire. They've done it. Both teams. Honestly, it's been a phenomenal series, and it's nowhere close to being done in my eyes. Again, we go back to the point that was arisen in Game 2. Can Fireflies now, in response, be disciplined, be in control, manage to get that gold onto their carries. We have got the tier fully completed for Ezreal. He is looking for that last bit of gold to finish his Mana Moon. If this happens and they cannot get their hands onto Ezreal, it could look scary for Ablaze. But Baron Nashor over to them, and they're looking to get a few more towers.
Nautilus here standing around that top side, making sure that this fire alarm that is blaring, fortunately not mine this time, I'm casting Ablaze, but it is still blaring for Fireflies. And like you say, right, it's a case of them having to be disciplined, having to turtle, making sure they're dousing the right fires, conceding the right flames here, making sure that they keep calm, collected, they carry on, they don't run in the corridors, and, you know, they go to the fire assembly point and the fountain, and they just let this happen where they can, but they have to not let that
Look at the Nautilus damage
to set their own fire. Look at this Nautilus damage, right? As you say, he's making a lot of this health. The Even Shroud doing some bits there as well. They've conceded the first fire in the inhibitor, but it looks like Ablaze aren't done. They're putting fire on fire. Gonna land nothing but a lantern.
Look for another tier 2.
Walk grouped here, as you say, for this tier 2. Mundo has popped his ultimate. He's regenerating. He's back to full mini. Put the shield on him as well.
Now on that bot inhib.
Yeah, the camera pans to it as well. That's the second inhibitor broken. Ablaze, wasting no time here, is gonna reach a point where there is not a lot of recovery left for Firefly. Granted, they have to keep it cool and collected, but they can't let it get too far ahead of themselves.
If you pay close attention to the minimap, Nautilus is sat in base with the teleport active, so they may look to use a minion to get a teleport and get this third tower, as Ollie's guiding the wave in, and there's the teleport.
Yeah, good catch. We'll see what Ablaze can catch here as well. They have 2 hooks, don't forget. They have charge to engage with. They have Mordekaiser as well. They are somewhat getting chipped out. The carries Mordekaiser here, Kaiser here. Already down to half. Ezreal looking for it. Has to get the heal out of there. There's a stopwatch burn as well. The ultimate coming across. More flashes being spent by Ablaze.
Keep your eyes on the minimap.
This is the call here for Fireflies. They're looking to chase it forward. The box comes down here from Thresh.
Oh, he's coming.
To chase it further. The charge comes in from behind. Repel goes up. It's Milio the one that gets engaged on. Ezreal is currently untouched, but he hasn't got a lot of mana left on the backside.
They need to play this fight slow.
Into the ultimate. You have to play it slow. Calling to pull it slow, but it's Ezreal, I think, there on the front line. He gets cut down. He gets double killed. Elise is dead. She's gone down. They're doing it. Ablaze have set enough fires. It's all over the base of Fireflies. They are droughted. They are drowned, and they are out of luck in this series. As Ablaze, they ring the alarm. They take the Nexus, and they take game 3.
And it was looking, again, so much in favor for Fireflies. It was looking like they were going to find a way back into the game. And then Ollie comes out with the big flank, locking down that Milio, managing to take him down. And that was a nail in the coffin, not being able to peel the rest of their team.
They really did just get squashed so immaculately at the end there. They didn't need that final soul point. They had enough fiery spirit to overindulge ourselves in those analogies, despite Milio being on the wrong side of the map. They came together at the end, right? They were losing that fight. You say time and time again, it's close, then it goes back, then it comes back, but it always seems to flip-flop. And in the case of this game, it fell back to that gold lead, and it feels like that level 1 really was contrary to how we would, well, the game ended contrary to how that level 1 would have made us believe, right? Elise starting 3-0. Yes, Kled has a couple of kills, but surely Elise and the team can do something about that. But because Elise is the early point of pressure, it didn't seem to come across. It just didn't seem to fruition the way you want. I don't know what happened.
And the one thing I want to take away as a representative of the Div 3 players that have moved up to Division 2, being Mr. Dark Pie, Elise OTV, Aka, Limit Testing, it's all a phenomenal performance from the 4 of them. They should be happy with themselves, including Seshking. Sorry, I missed the 5th. I apologize. But honestly, it has been a phenomenal series. Even though it ended up going the way of Ablaze, it looked like it could have gone either way in all 3 games, and I'm happy.
100%.
This was the first series both of these teams got to play this split and to show, and if I was a Division 2 team, I would be afraid. We are going to move on to a quick interview with Mr. Dark Pie, and then I think we'll be signing off.
Cool, that sounds good. Is he ready? Do we know?
I think he's ready. I think we can move him on in.
Excellent. Let's get him in here and we'll quiz him. Hello, welcome. You are on stream. Give us your first impressions, as is the most generic interview thing ever in League of Legends of the series. How do you feel?
I mean, it was just a team diff.
Where would you like to highlight team differences? Is it team diff in execution? Is it team diff in macro? Is it team diff in draft? Is it just hands? Where would you like to call the biggest difference?
I mean, if you watch game one, right, we start to get a little bit of ahead on Vars, and so we completely change our entire game plan at that moment to play through bot to get Vars ahead and to use that as kind of the crux of our game. Game
Yeah.
two, we ran it a little too hard due to how quickly, I'll say, success came game one. And then game three, as soon as we got back to basics, Ollie gets a little bit ahead. We decide to play around him, and then it just becomes a top gap. You know, it's just, it is what it is.
Now I
Well,
will.
Go for it.
Now I will point out, as someone who got to play against you last split, and got to play against a lot of these players that have moved up to Division 2 now. How are you feeling? How are you feeling that you've improved? Are you feeling the same? Talk to me about your growth.
I mean, I feel like I haven't really changed much from Div 3 to Div 2 as far as how skilled I think I am. I think that the team that I'm on though is definitely obviously higher tier. Not to take anything away from my old Div 3 team, but the players here have all reached much higher peak ranks. They have much more experience playing the game in the type of way that I kind of expect the game to be played, and it just shows when I can make any mistake I want because I know my team will compensate for it. It just completely unlocks me as an ADC.
And
That
it's
is
good to hear.
stellar to hear, right? Because I feel like that showed up really in game one. Like you say, right? The team kind of rallied behind you in the same way that game three, you rallied behind your lead in that sense. And the team feels adaptable enough, perhaps because of that experience, because of that rank. Even if you come in with a game plan so that you have an idea of what you're doing, that can change and still be a win condition throughout. So perhaps leaning back to game one, at what point was it in that game that you decided to lean on Varus, and why was it not Varus to begin with? What was the game plan and why did it change?
So game plan for game number one was essentially to play around topside, get Ollie unlocked, and then just own every single macro objective on the map. Uh, it changed the second I got that first kill with my Q, that first blood.
Yeah,
So very beginning of the game, everyone just said, "Okay, we're playing around bot now," and that's what we did. Zero hesitation. We just completely changed the direction of the game like that.
perfect. Would you mind if I ask you then about your opponents, since the team on your behalf you seem very happy with, and everyone seems to be on the same page, and I think that was clear for games 1 and 3, and I feel like for parts of game two still. What is it then about game two and or the Fireflies that kind of disrupted that flow and not made this a 2-0?
Well, first I'll give credit where credit's due. The enemy ADC on Zaya and
Mm-hmm.
the Aurelian Soul, you know, both of those
Yes.
were picks we didn't really want to get through. And both of them, you know, they were so proficient on their champs that once they pulled a little bit ahead, they were able to just do everything you kind of expect from those champions. But I would say that it's not anything that, not to take away from them, but I don't think it's anything Fireflies did to get ahead game two. We just kind of ran it down bot lane and allowed them to snowball. But I think team wise, we're just, I mean, Ablaze won last season. Why does anyone think it'll be different this season?
Ooh, I like
And
that. So, oh no, you go for it.
I was going to say, and that is a good way to round off. If you had any other comments or any other words, or if you wanted to thank anyone, or maybe have a little shout out, the floor is yours.
I mean, obviously, I want to thank my team and Ablaze in general. They're really great to have. Good luck to the other team, obviously, in the rest of their season. But I'll tell you right now, this is just to get us ready for Div 1 next year. We've it's considered an easy win.
I love how fiery that talk is. I don't know if you've had the cast on at any point, but it has been a lot of fire-based mnemonics, etc. So I love how you've come out with the most confident, chill, cool blue flame to say that this is just a training ground. So thank you. Congrats on your 2 wins. And I think we're just about ready to close this one unless we have anything last to say.
No, I think that's it. It's been a good stream.
It has been a good stream. So thank you to everyone who have joined us. I hope you've enjoyed the cast and, of course, the games. Thank you, Dark Pie, as well, for coming along for an interview. And I think that's us for Div 2 Valence. You can catch us same time next week with new teams, I believe.
Hopefully, and maybe some new faces. We'll just have to see.
Perfect. Cheers, guys, and good night.
Thank you very much. Bye.